And we have about 8 minutes.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Just wanted to make sure.
Hey, Maurice? Maurice?
Yes.
So, Michael, I'm sure told you that we're going to directly to lot consolidation, lot splits,
Yes.
page number 8.
Right. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll take this opportunity for a commercial break. I had a iced cappuccino with soy today.
Ah, healthy.
So we're all in trouble. I had my caffeine. Do we have any other commission members on yet? It's been a beautiful week.
Yes, it has. Like that tie, David.
Do we have any other commission members on? Hey, Michael?
Okay.
I don't know. It's not saying anything.
I'm just gonna print this out for you,
Okay,
because I have to go here because I'm gonna be,
in the meeting.
in the meeting.
I'm sorry.
We'll start momentarily.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, Diane.
Morning.
Charles? Good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. This is Fred
Good.
Perkins. Can you hear me?
Hey, Fred, can hear you loud and clear.
Hey, David. How are you? I'm sorry
Good,
I
sir.
couldn't get on the Zoom, but I'm here. How you guys doing?
I recognize your voice. Very well, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Am I too early?
Well, you're not up yet, but you're not too early.
All right.
All right, David,
All
I
right.
believe we have everyone here. Dr. McCray Scott is logging on to a computer in the office here, so she'll be on momentarily.
Perfect. Okay. So
Go ahead.
go ahead, Freddie.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter via our website and email have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Mr. Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Thank you very much. We're moving the public art piece to the end of the agenda, so we're going to start off with page 8. And I ask the people presenting today to keep your comments brief because I have to leave at 11:30 and turn it over to Lillian Curry, and she has to leave at noon. So we want to make sure that we keep a quorum throughout the whole meeting and can conduct all the business on our agenda today. So Michael, please call the roll.
Mr. Chair, it's Lillian. August Fluker does not have the correct link, and he texted me that he's trying to log on, and if someone could resend him the link.
Hi, man.
Oh, there he is. Got it.
Thanks, August. Thanks, Lillian. So Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Present.
Downing,
Present.
Fluker,
Present.
Curry,
Present.
McCray Scott,
Present.
Paul, Slife.
Present.
We have a quorum. The first is a lot consolidated lot split permanent parcel number 007-01-071, 4210 Orchard Avenue. Now, this one was tabled on June 4th. Do we have enough information to take action today? Staff?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a motion to remove from the table.
Matthew
Move to
Moss has his
remove
hand
from
raised.
the table.
We have a motion and second. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing, Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Okay, who's here to present this?
Matthew Moss does have his hand raised.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After the last meeting in June, the commission gave specific direction to the applicant as to how to split this lot and where to set the property lines. And the applicant, Mr. Jeff Snacky, has done so and provided us with the following presentation and lot split diagram. So I believe it's been a little while since I've seen this, but I believe it now has the split line drawn. So there's a 10-foot setback for the church or for the house, and the church has the remaining setback of the difference of the property, which is a little under 3 feet, because if I recall correctly, the total distance between the structures is 12 feet. But this was deemed appropriate in consultation with Building and Housing, since the rear wall of that church is entirely brick and doesn't have any windows, so it does not pose a fire concern from that perspective. So this was done by Mr. Snacky based on the feedback from the commission and from the Building and Housing Department.
Maurice, you'll want to go back to the one that says revised. There's a slide that says revised. It's a site plan look. Back further.
That wasn't it.
No, keep going back.
Yeah, that is the revised plat.
Yeah, there's one that says revised on it too. Anyway, it's one of these two. Matt,
I'm having a hard time hearing.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
there it is.
That's the revised plat, yeah. Previously, the applicant was proposing to split that space between the house and the church down the middle. And that has been revised to provide a 10-foot setback for the small house, parcel B, and the remaining setback will be for the church. But because there are windows on that side of the house, it was deemed appropriate to give that as much space as possible, just so it can be as compliant as possible with the city's fire code.
Thank you. Commission members, questions?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Fluker.
Motion and second, further discussion.
Yes, I would like to amend the motion to stipulate that the property owner identify through through the building department what the actual fire rating of the church wall can achieve through I believe Chapter 7, which identifies historic materials. I just want to make sure that everybody addresses the construction of this church properly when developing this project.
Okay, we have a motion and second.
I'll
Michael,
accept the amendment
okay.
to my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. Next is permanent parcel number 003-30-096-097 and 120. This is at 4005 and 4009 Woodbine Avenue and 3914 John Avenue. Who's here for this?
I am the owner of 4005 Woodbine.
Okay, your name, please, for the record.
John Nineber.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the property behind my house, 4005 3914 John Avenue, was purchased in June 2021 between me and my neighbor on 4009. So they're directly next to it. So we want to split the lot between the two of us and consolidate it into our properties. Next. And then here's the proposed view of the actual survey that we had done with it and what our plan split is. Next. This would give a bigger backyard to my house. So it would be 14 feet wide onto John, and then 18 feet onto 4009 additional. So this would flare out the backyard for 4009, so give them a bigger backyard, and then also same with us, give a bigger backyard. Just an aerial shot of it taken by the realtor. Next one. And then another aerial shot. And then a backyard shot. What you can see from all the shots is that the yards are very connected to each other, very close to one another. So we actually bought this property just so that we didn't see another house be built right on top of our property lines. Next. Site plan. Both of us plan on using this more as just a green space. So my property, mine is just to move the shed that was on my property and then plant 8 fruit trees. And then 4009 Woodbine was planning on moving all their flower gardens along the property line. So this would be a little bit more enjoyable than the overgrown grass lot that has previously been there and normally got up to like a foot or so. Next. Any questions?
Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
Second, Curry.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Trey Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Permanent parcel number 001-10074. This is for 9803 and 9805 Lake Avenue. Who's here for this one?
I'm here, David.
Hey, Wes.
Morning.
Morning. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Wes Harper with Horton Harper Architects. We were here a handful of months ago to present the overall development or redevelopment of these cluster of parcels on Lake Avenue between West Boulevard and Clifton. You can see here we're just south of Edgewater Park with some views of the lake. We can switch to the next slide. And so the site we're talking about specifically today is the eastern existing parcel. This parcel has a large, what was originally designed as a duplex house. And over the years, it's been broken up into one singular home. It was previously a bed and breakfast over the last 10 or 15 years and has been vacant for the past decade, probably. The parcel to the west, we're kind of going through a redesign in terms of what we're proposing there. We previously had a 6-story condominium structure there that will, we're not going to be proposing that to be townhomes, and that will be a separate presentation to the Planning Commission. So today we're just looking at the eastern parcel. Next. Yeah, so here is the Google aerial of the existing site. I've got the empty parcel to the west, and then the rehab that we're looking at today. To the east of us, we have a mix of existing, larger homes on Lake Avenue, and then the Andrew Berkman project a bit further to the east. To our west, we have a 1920s large multifamily apartment structure with parking below. Next. Here we just have some existing condition photos of the house. It's actually in pretty good shape considering it's been vacant for a handful of years. We do plan on fully rehabbing this home. We'll get to a rendering or two at the end of this presentation, or maybe the next slide, I don't recall. But the idea is to basically put this house back to a two-family structure. And since, we recognize that in some ways we're recreating a building department issue by splitting the existing house into 2 parcels, basically. So this can be a fee simple transaction to the future buyers. But the structure is actually split already by a large masonry wall that's 12 to 14 inches thick that kind of snakes around or within the footprint of the home. So over the years, as I mentioned, those 2 homes became one single structure. We're going to be re-implementing or rebuilding a 2-hour rated wall within the voids of the fire rated structure as it currently exists. I know it's something that the Planning Commission doesn't like to create, these fire rated problems that maybe aren't recognized at the time that somebody's bringing a lot split to you. But here we are, fully aware of what we're getting into, and we just want to explain that portion of the lot split. So with that, I think we could switch to the next slide. Here is the site plan. So this parcel would be split into 2 and basically trace the firewall that currently exists. You can see it kind of jogs its way through the house as it heads to the south, and then we're looking to create a new 4-car garage in the rear. Again, there would be a 2-hour firewall on that property line so that the building or the fire code, the building code is considered and in meeting that code. So it's a pretty unique lot split. We think that this, the efforts to do this are worth it. There's been a handful of proposals to this house over the years, most of which were to demolish the house. And so we're looking to rehab this and re-energize the space. Next. So here is a rendering of the rehabilitated home. We'd look to remove some of the infill that has been constructed over the years in the porches. So that would completely open that up, but still be a usable porch and have some privacy from one side to the next, basically. Down the middle between the home and the structure that you see to the right would be a path that basically acts as the pedestrian entry to the future townhomes that would be to the west there. So we will be coming back within the coming months to get the townhouse project approved, but it would meet all of the criteria of the townhouse code. Next. So here is the basement floor plan. We could go through this very quickly. You could see down the middle, we have that very thick masonry wall that divides the two parcels, essentially. Next. Here we have the first floor layout. Again, that masonry demising wall is consistent all the way up to the bottom of the roof. With that, I mean, I don't think there's really much else to get into. The second floor plan would have infill in the holes that were created in the demising wall to connect the two units. So with that, I'd open it up to questions that you may have.
Commission members?
I move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, I was muted. They have Director Collier had his hand raised.
Yeah,
Director?
Yeah, just one quick question for clarity's sake. Obviously, this is creative. We thought the design was great. But the question is, Wesley, just so I'm clear, was this previously a two-family that went single and it's being converted back? Did I hear that correctly?
From the way the masonry wall was created, it looks like it was two separate units at one point. There would have been no other reason to really build such a hefty and significant masonry wall. And the interesting thing is, when you click on the parcel on the auditor's site, it gives it two addresses. So I think over the years, it just kind of morphed into a single home as the bed and breakfast. I'm not sure when it actually occurred, but the bed and breakfast certainly utilized those kind of pass-throughs between the units to make their life easier, I'm sure. But in terms of documentation of whether or not it truly was two separate parcels, I do not have that information.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Trey Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next is permit parcel number 114-06-050 and 051. This is at 17704 Ingleside Road. Who's here for this one, please?
I am.
Who's
John.
I am?
John Prim.
Oh, John, go ahead.
Yeah, basically what ended up happening was the house was demolished in 2019, and it left this space open. And basically all we're trying to do now is reestablish the property line there with the lot split. It's a very small to line it up, as you can see here, and it's correcting a previous survey that had a system error on it. And everything's pretty much done. All I'm trying to do now is finish up approval so we can move forward, and then I can install a new fence on the property line. If you'd like to move to the next slide. And there we go. So I already have a fence there and what have you. And when the house was torn down, it left a big open space. So now what I have to do is go ahead and make sure everything's squared away so I can go ahead and get a new permit and finish, put in a new fence and finish it all the way to the back of the property. And a couple more ground photos. And survey's already been done, and there's the replat for it. And that's pretty much it.
Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
Second, Fluker.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Trey Scott,
Yes.
Life.
No.
Motion carries, and we have one dissenting vote. Next is a mandatory referral, ordinance number 228-2021, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to lease certain properties located at the Opportunity Corridor Superblock 3B to Nordstrom Development and Construction, LLC, or its designee, not to exceed 3 years, authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into a purchase agreement with Nordstrom. And this is from the land reutilization. Who's here to speak to this one?
Good morning, Director Ebersole here.
Hey, David.
How are you?
Go ahead. Good.
Good. So we're talking today about a lease-to-own relationship that we are proposing to enter into with the development team behind the Construction Opportunity Institute of Cleveland. This would result in the development of a construction training facility located, as you can see, just south of the Opportunity Corridor and east of East 79th Street. I'll turn it over to the project team to talk about it in a little bit more detail here, but the purpose of the lease would be to allow the development team to get into the site to undertake the environmental remediation in partnership with us and with Jobs Ohio, and to do the pre-development work necessary to bring out the site. Once the project is ready to come out of the ground, we would then allow them to activate the purchase agreement, purchase the property, own, and develop the site. This is an interesting site, a great location. Tucked up to the north there is the existing McTech construction building. This facility here would focus on training folks from the neighborhood, especially younger people coming out of school, and getting them jobs in the construction trade. It would be hands-on learning experience run by a group led by Fred Perkins, who owns the land to the north there, and has decades of experience in the construction trades. Ultimately, if once training facility proves success, there would be additional expansion for on-site living and some facilities to support the training mission itself. Again, I think one of the feedbacks that we've received, and one of our goals in the development of the Opportunity Corridor has been ensuring that the individuals who are impacted by the development of the corridor, the individuals in the neighborhood, get the opportunities to get jobs, to develop develop that workforce in and around the corridor, and so our view is that this fits that mission pretty well. So Eugene Cranford is here, and he's the project architect, and I'm going to have him talk a little bit about the project and the rendering that you see here in front of you.
Morning.
Good morning, Eugene.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Just real briefly, I want to go through our project. Our project's actually site location is east of 79th, East 79th Street, with Woodland being to the north, Kinsman Avenue being to the south. The property of the proposed COIC campus is bordered between Rawlings to the north and Houghton to the south at East 79th Street and East 84th Street. What we are proposing is it's a 48,000 square foot building. The proposed training facility would be located south southwest corner of East 79th Street in Rollins, across from the proposed entry-exit ramp for the Opportunity Corridor project. The proposed main entrance will be at the southeast corner of East 79th and Holton. As you know, along East 79th Street, there's not been much new development. It's a pretty blighted area between Woodland and Kinsman. The only new type of construction or anything done there has been the RTA station at East 79th Street, which is a beautiful station. RTA has also placed several bus stops within that vicinity and strip, which would be great for the students of this proposed training building. Before determining the building location, the team looked at the City of Cleveland Transportation for Livable Community Initiative plan, and we will adhere to those city requirements, and such as amenity strips, building lighting, parking lighting, pedestrian lighting, as well as different types of trees, landscaping, and fencing requests and requirements. We'll pretty much be setting the precedents in this area because nothing is there right now, and we would follow all the city guidelines and requirements. Behind the proposed facility to the east, we will have parking and as well as an outdoor exhibit space. This exhibit space will display selected equipment in the asphalt and concrete industry. These will be used mainly for light demonstration and mainly for visualization of equipment. What we would like to do is, what we are proposing is a campus-like setting that would enhance safety and wellness. To the east of East 81st Street, between Rollins and Halton, this is all conceptual still. We're proposing that we do maybe 2 dorm residential buildings and have living facilities. We would like to place a courtyard between the 2 residential buildings with landscaping to screen off vehicular traffic and prevent noise from outer areas. To the east of that, we're proposing a athletic facility. And with this athletic facility, we're noticing that it would be for the residents as well as holding different types of tournaments within the community. Because we've noticed that it's a popular thing now for these AAU teams to have different tournaments throughout the state. And we would like to be the host for those type of events. That's pretty much it in the ballpark. We just wanted to give you an idea of our conceptual design and for the space that the city has allowed us to acquire. And if we have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Commission members?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Councilman Slife. I'm a bit confused because a few weeks ago, there was an article on Cleveland.com that suggested that this proposed project was no longer active. And let me just say, when I worked as a site selector, I spent a lot of time working with small communities saying, this is your best industrial site in your county, in your town, and there's going to be pressures to build a school on it or the bus garage on it or some other use that is not the greatest ROI. Hold on to this property for industrial development. And I say that because the state of Ohio has paid $330 million to build a new road through the largest area of undeveloped land in the city of Cleveland. And while it's very laudable to have a training facility for construction jobs, this is the densest concentration of potential new construction in the city of Cleveland. And I don't understand why we would be removing our ability to create new jobs for a training institute that theoretically could go in another location. So I'll say I'm surprised that this is here. I don't think that the rest of council knew that this was coming today. And unlike in a design review presentation where there is an ability to give some level of conceptual approval, this is a mandatory referral of an ordinance. And because of that, I think that at best we should table this because giving any kind of imprimatur from the Planning Commission for this legislation, I think is setting false expectations and deviates from the entire economic development strategy for this area of town.
Other commission members? Questions, comments?
I have a couple questions, just for clarification. Maybe I missed it. I would like to see the site in the context of the overall kind of master plan for Opportunity Corridor, and also like the larger kind of context for it, and how it relates to that, I think, as Charles is stating. And then the second thing for me is that I think I heard correctly, this smaller triangular parcel to the north here is also owned by the applicants. Is that correct?
Similar, different entities, same principles.
Right, which begs the question to me why the entire site isn't being planned, and that seems extremely short-sighted, and also why that parcel is not being used. I have some concerns about that, which is why is this city land being utilized versus the land to the north along the road? And so why aren't we seeing a full plan, or are we leaving this triangular parcel for what purpose to the north, as we see sort of future development on this site? But that really worries me, and don't understand. And I guess this is for David Ebersol, from an economic development point of view, why wouldn't this be planned to the road or the whole site when it's the same property owner? So, you know, we need to see that overall vision for this block so that we understand, I think, as Paul said, it's like, what is the potential of this relative to the huge investment of Opportunity Corridor?
Sure. So the property to the north is the existing, there is an existing operation on there. That's where the McTech per construction office building is. And so this land to the south then is the immediately developable space adjacent to it, to answer that question.
Do you have the overall master plan? Does it can we, I just am not as familiar. I'd like to see it.
Sure. Let me see if I can show you the best way to do that.
You will not be able to share it. We don't have screen sharing turned on.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm okay. I agree with Charles though.
Lillian?
We also have Director Collier with his hand raised.
Director, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to provide some clarity with respect to the overall area here known as the core job zone. As you all recall, we adopted the East 79th Street corridor plan as part of the overall Opportunity Corridor visioning. And in that study, it incorporated the rapid transit facilities. It looked at redensifying East 79th Street. That was the precursor to RTA's investment in the initial Red Line station, and will hopefully lead them to investing in the other station. The core job zone was slated for job creation and job growth. This particular facility, we believe, supports that because of the educational component and the workforce readiness component of this. To your point, Commissioner Curry, with respect to the entire site, in that 79th Street corridor plan, we do have a vision plan. When this particular proposal came, I guess, to economic development with respect to where the site could go, the core job zone kind of fit that description. Now, as you know, with all development, when you have development proposals, you may not get developments of scale that actually match your vision 100%. So with respect to this one, this was one of those low-hanging fruit sites that offered opportunity to fulfill the overall mission, which the core job zone outlines, on a parcel that was available. The issue, and I'm just going to be 100% transparent, and everyone on the call and in the City of Cleveland knows this now, was the concern about an asphalt plant, which apparently is no longer part of this proposal. With respect to the Construction Institute, it is something that we believe is beneficial to the corridor and creates opportunity for residents, young people in this actual footprint to leverage the land and opportunity corridor for something that's productive for them. So there was a lot of alignment with respect to the Construction Institute itself. Mr. Schleif brought up on a previous Planning Commission call the concerns around the asphalt plant, the noxious uses concerned with that, particularly being next to what's envisioned to be some food-related uses. Very legitimate. And I think with respect to the nixing of that asphalt component of this, I think it makes it much more viable and appropriate for this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Freddie, could you also, I think, just follow on to that, and for me, talk about a similar study that was done for the food hub here, and what does this deviate in some way that will prevent that vision from coming forward? I mean, I think the question is, I know there's a lot of people in the community working towards that, and so it's all, I guess the question is, why isn't this all being aligned?
So a couple things with respect to the 79th Street study, and Maurice, is no way I can share my screen because this will deviate from the agenda, because I can walk you through step by step, and I intend to do that on the 13th at the food hub discussion and provide that level of clarity with respect to the parcels in which we identified food related uses for this food hub concept, which the 79th Street corridor study actually illuminates. And I think in our last meeting on the food hub, part of the next agenda is for me to walk through that, to talk about how the food related parcels line up with respect to this core job zone area.
Well, I guess where I'm going is, can the groups get together, including this group, and do that before you come to us? I mean, I always feel like this happens to the planning commission. We get put in this position, and why hasn't that happened already? I mean, I'm now agreeing even more with Charles that we should table this so that that meeting can happen and that everyone can be in agreement about how all of this can get done together and support each other, as opposed to, I think, what's happening to us to kind of make a determination without everyone coming together and working together on where things should go and why.
Yeah, I think that's totally legitimate, and that's part of the reason why we do planning, is to create that coordination. I think the question that everyone has to ask themselves here, and I'm going to pose this to my colleague, Mr. Ebersol, with respect to the transaction itself, the transfer of the property, and the desire to have a use like this, on this property. I think that's a pretty clean desire and fits. It does not negate the need and the actions that have to happen with respect to coordination. And I think as a result of some of the latest conversations with the Food Hub group, that still can happen. I don't know if the transactions that's being requested here today flies in the face of that at all. based on what I know and what I've seen to this point. But I hear you loud and clear with respect to the conversation and coordinating around this. But I think with respect to the transactions that come before us, and I'll give you an example, Commissioner Curry, when we got a proposal, and you know how this works, the city gets proposals all the time. When we get these proposals and we look at measuring them against sort of what's the best location, where do we have land available, and all the other boxes that you have to check, we do that and see if it fits. There was a strong desire with respect to the education component of this and how well that fit in with this whole workforce piece, because we were not getting proposals of that magnitude with respect to job readiness. I know that's a priority for a number of organizations here in town. And if the residents in the immediate community don't benefit from workforce readiness or job creation, then that to me flies in the face of the intent of Opportunity Corridor. That is why the $10 million was sought through the city of Cleveland to the state through a number of channels to remediate this land so that it has economic benefit for the surrounding community. And this institute does do that. I will say that. And again, let's not, negate the elephant in the room that existed for a long time, which was the notion of asphalt facility. But that conversation is not the narrative at this point. So I think we need to, and this is my recommendation, look at this in the context to your point, Ms. Curry, and I think with respect to the groups that are forming and the interest that is being generated, that opportunity is there. But let's not necessarily negate the transaction with respect to the land for this type of facility. It is a legitimate use at this point with respect to the focus being on this construction institute.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move to table this, and I'll just say
may
that.
I say something? Mr. Chairman, may I say something before you table this? This is Fred Perkins. I am co-sponsoring this project with Mr. Norm Edwards. And first of all, I really am grateful to you all for having us today to talk about this project. This project is a project that is needed in that community. I am a former resident of that community. We went before the community a couple of weeks ago, and we had many people there from the community, including the council person and others, and the stakeholders who have been displaced from this area for this corridor project, 3 Mile project. And there was no one who found fault or reason why it should not exist among the people who have been displaced and among the stakeholders who live in the community. I think a food corridor is important, but as Mr. Collier so eloquently has explained, this job creation is extremely important to the people who are the disenfranchised. We moved the asphalt plant, and we were told that was the problem, and we didn't necessarily agree, but for the sake of having everyone happy, we removed it. At the community meeting, I talked to some people after the meeting was over, and they said that they felt that maybe that was not the real reason. Maybe the reason why things have occurred is because someone does not want this project to exist. And they knew that the asphalt plant was one of the funding sources to support it. I think that to table this is totally I haven't heard a good reason yet why it needs to be tabled if the people who are going to benefit and the people who lost the opportunity to live in that community don't have some input in wanting this there. My partner and I have spent a lot of money, and there's nothing to be gained for us except we want to give back, because there is a need for jobs in the community for the people who have been affected.
So, Mr. Chair, we're going to lose our quorum at some point, so I really do think we need to move beyond this one.
Here, so thank you for your comments, Fred. Is there a second or is there no second?
Mr. Chairman, we do have David Eversole with his hand raised.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Perkins' point, and I had a couple of items to cover that the commissioners have brought up. I think, I've had one conversation around the food hubs study a couple months ago that I think, my understanding is that this use would be compatible with the similar type small scale use developments that would also have the impact of activating on 79th Street. So I think that works. Happy to have a follow-up conversation, but I at the same time would point out respectfully that, we've been working on assembling this property for years and have undertaken a significant amount of effort in putting environmental remediation together. And that was the only outreach I had, and appreciate a couple of people who did that, but don't appreciate several of the other folks who have been involved in having conversations with everyone except for us, who have tried to poison the well a little bit here. So that's the only point. That's a point I wanted to make, and so appreciate the discussion. Look forward to further discussion on that. Look forward to further discussion on this, but at the same time, we've been working on this for a long time. It's not a secret.
All right. So there's a motion on the floor. If there's not a second, then it dies of no second. But is there a second? Okay, there's no second, so it dies of no second.
No, I said second. You didn't hear it.
Oh, did you? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. The one thing I would ask Charles, obviously, there's more information they need to put out, especially how it works with food terminals and that type of thing. And I get where you're going, Charles. But at the end of the day, we have a problem in the construction industry that we don't have enough young people getting into it. And pretty soon we're going to find ourselves as a city that we can't build anything with local people. And I would also say that we also have a dearth of, refrigerator and freezer space for food terminals. And we see that business going to Columbus and to Michigan. So I see both these needs as strong needs. And if it would be okay with you, I'd like to see the motion to a date certain, because I think that's important to keep this thing on track.
If I could, I'm happy to come back in 2 weeks and have further conversation.
Charles, is that okay with you?
I will agree to that. My primary concerns are that we keep saying we need jobs in this community, and I agree, we need jobs that pay well, have benefits. This is a school, and I'm not understanding why this can't be brought in through Tri-C or the trades or some other mechanism, what the value add is for a brand new institution, one. Two, this road is almost open. I'm unclear what is being done with the economic development, Team NEO, to attract all of those uses into this corridor. And I'm not going to be supportive of quick and easy wins.
And I would say date certain is fine with me as a second, but I would hope that before it comes back, these groups have gotten in the room and had a discussion about how to work together. I don't think it should come back if that hasn't happened. I think everyone the food groups and group and economic development, you got to get in a room all together with this group and work together and then come back.
Okay, so Dave and Freddie, you heard it. It would be great to have a comprehensive plan, and I know that there's that information out there, but put it into the PowerPoint presentation so we can see it, because obviously there's many needs the city has, and I'd like to keep this ball rolling. So we have a motion and a second. Please
Mr.
call the
Chairman,
roll.
we do have Director Collier with his hand raised and Commissioner Scott.
Yes, and I know we have to move along, but I want to be very clear about this, all right? Because I can be as adamant with respect to the planning that's been done in this corridor. We have a master plan for this corridor. We have an adopted 79th Street corridor plan specifically for the core job zone. The parcel to the north of this remains separated in that plan. This is why I'm a little agitated that I can't share my screen. So I'd be willing to go as far, and Lillian, to your point, with respect to this meeting that's coming up on the 13th with this group, I'm going to lay this out for them, because we're not replanning the opportunity corridor. That should and will not happen. That will be a step backwards. What has to happen is that coalescing of efforts around continuing to add value to get the right transactions to occur. So if we can do that, that's fine. However, I do want to remind the commission members, we have an adopted plan. This building almost verbatimly fits into the actual physical footprint of what's proposed in that plan, with a few nuances. The elephant in the room was the issue that everybody is very much aware of, which was the asphalt component of this. And I think that there has been no other conversation outside of that asphalt plant, and there was not an issue with the actual education facility, even in previous discussions. So now there's an issue of all of a sudden with the actual education component. For me, that's a little bit troubling because of the need for this type of use. Now, if there's a question as to the confidence, because I recall someone saying, oh, it should be Tri-C or it should be this entity. There are partnerships associated with this that were articulated previously. I don't know if that failed. There's a failure to remember that, but I would suggest this, Mr. Chairman, after this 13th meeting, which is literally next Friday, which will be a whole week prior to the Planning Commission meeting where that discussion will occur, Lillian. And then also at the Planning Commission meeting, if there's a need to put it in context, I'd be more than happy to lay that out for you and remind you of what we've adopted.
Okay, but can you make sure that the group proposing this is at the meeting so that everyone works together? It can't happen separately. So this group and the other groups have to get together at this meeting. It cannot just be you and them and then you and them. Like, get everyone in a room and then come back.
Everyone on the same page? Thumbs up. I saw the thumbs up. So everyone's on the same page. Hey, Fred Perkins?
Who is everyone? Who is everyone?
Including you. Including you, Fred.
What, meet with who? Who are you asking us to meet?
Mr. Bowen.
No,
My request.
I'm going to finish my statement because I'm upset. Now, I know more than what is being said here. This is not right. Mr. Collier has laid this out. There is a path for an institute like this to happen. Now, why are we getting this pushback? It's weird. I don't know whether I will meet with anybody after this meeting, because I know what's going on here. And it's not right. I'm done.
All right, Fred.
Mr. Chairman, we did have Ms. Scott with her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and the commissioners, I have to concur with Director Collier. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the area as far as living there or living in close proximity, but this plan I feel would be great not only for the future of this area, but for the future of Cleveland. We have to look at it in a broader perspective. We're talking about not only economic development and job creation, but you're talking about lessening the crime in the area because you have an educational facility there that is going to provide not only training and jobs, but a vehicle for people to grow economically. I have to concur with the director. I think we need to move on with the plan. I don't see any reason for any further discussion, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. So there was a motion and a second. And I would suggest if this passes, anyone that doubts the validity of this plan should show up at the meeting on the 13th themselves too, so they can see it firsthand, and then the next commission meeting. So Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
No.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Have to abstain.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
No.
Life.
Yes.
That's a tie.
It's a tie. All right.
So for the sake of moving this forward, Mr. Chairman, if I can make a suggestion, Mr. Perkins, if you're on the line, Mr. Eppersall and all involved, at the end of the day, everyone wants to see this corridor be developed into something special and hopefully get the return on investment that the community deserves. I think by providing the opportunity to show this in the context of the larger master plan so that people can see clearly how this fits both from a physical standpoint and from the intent of having this type of use, I think will be additive. So I think providing the opportunity to do that will be very, very important. And as I alluded to before, this is not foreign to what has been planned for the corridor that has been adopted. Now, there are interests that want to see a food distribution scenario here, which we've outlined in the plan on very specific parcels. That includes building off of the Red Green Partnership and looking at other strategic parcels that have been slated and outlined for agricultural uses. And again, that is all in that plan that needs to be seen so that everyone can understand how this aligns and that this is not foreign. I think the most concerning aspect of this proposal has been eliminated, and that says a lot. So I think it's very important to acknowledge that.
So Freddie, what do we have to do to move this on since it's a tie?
That's a good question.
Director, as there's conversations, can you make sure that Councilman Brancatelli's looped in as the head of the DPS committee? Because he wasn't aware that this was coming up back before Planning Commission either, and I think that he's a key input on the council side.
Sure.
Okay. So here, to make this a clean, so the original motion was to table. It was a tie. So Charles, make the motion again for date certain.
I'll make the motion for date certain. Was that August 13th?
No,
it's the week
I'm sorry,
after.
August 20th.
Yes.
I'll make that motion to table and to rehear on August 20th.
Okay. Lillian?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second to table. Michael, call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
He abstained.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
No.
Life.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion carries. And please, commission members that question this, please show up on the 13th too. And Freddie, would you include all the commission members if they want to come?
I don't think we can do that just from sunshine law point of view. So I don't think we should do that. We can't do that.
So
Let me
at least two can show up.
And let me just be clear what this conversation on the 13th was intended to be and the reason why it was even brought up. It was to provide clarity on the master plan for this interest group who seeks to advance the food hub concept. It is very important for them to be clear that the city of Cleveland's plan is in play, and we've been working that approach. That goes back to the point of making sure that people understand what these moves are, what these plays are, and we be transparent about them and clear about this. This is something that we intend to pursue. We will not be going backwards. The goal is to move forward. And with respect to the whole food hub concept, for them to get an understanding of where in the corridor we had slated or identified these agricultural food hub uses. With respect to the facility that we rezoned for a couple of months back, that's additive to the food conversation with the freezer facility as well as a job creator. So there's some intentionality here. And this also fits. And what we're going to demonstrate to everyone is how this fits in the context. That is what these 2 weeks are being for, is to reinforce this.
Okay.
Okay.
And just make sure we have a nice complete presentation with the next one with that information. Thanks, Freddie. So let's move on to the next. It's ordinance number 539/2021. This is authorizing the mayor and the commissioner of purchase and supplies to acquire and reconvey properties owned by 5506 Detroit LLC or its designee, and the Mayaker Familia LLC or its designee located at 5506 Detroit Avenue for the purpose of entering into a chain of title for a TIF. Who's here to speak to this one, please?
Yep, me again.
Okay, me again. Go ahead, Dave.
Yep. All right, so this project, this authorizes the entry into the chain of title is a precondition to a non-school TIF. This would support the Waverly and Oak project on Detroit at West 55th Street. This is a mixed-use project, 126 unit building. It's about 17,000 square feet of retail space, about a $47 million investment all told at this site. And this is a cool project. It's a new investment group coming into the city. And we've worked with the councilwoman there as well, and she's supportive of the project.
Commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Curry.
We have motion second, further discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Owen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Gray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Please take a look at the administrative approvals, and I'll take a motion when you're ready.
While everyone's looking, David, I put something in the chat, but I would ask that staff verify. I don't believe 3-2 with an abstention is a tie for the future, so I think we have the law department review that. The vote was technically 3-2 with an abstention. I didn't want to say it, but in the time that you were doing it, I believe that is not a tie, but can we have law verify that since it's been twice?
Yep, thank you, Lillian.
I move approval on the administrative referrals.
Second, Fluker.
We have a motion and second, further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Owen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Gray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Far West Design Review, Arby's renovation seeking final approval. This is at 17325 Lorraine Avenue. Who's here for this one, please?
This is Jordan Fleischman, CESO.
Jordan, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Also, may I add, Joseph Peters from Arby's Corporate is also here.
Okay, did you swear you in? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Well, good morning. Just want to discuss this project. It's the redevelopment of an existing restaurant into an Arby's restaurant with drive-through service located in the Cam's Corner district. Proposed improvements include facelift of the existing building and then site improvements including new landscaping, pedestrian-friendly patio and front entrance, updated parking lot to fix the ADA compliance issues, and then a dual drive-through service. As it was noted, we were previously on the agenda and received conceptual approval, and we have also worked with Adam Davenport in the planning department to satisfy their comments. So today we are seeking approval and take any questions.
Do we have an elevation?
Yes, it should be further along in the drawings.
Okay.
The floor plan, there's the elevations.
Okay, there's a number of things that came from design review. Commission members, questions?
Councilman supportive.
I am supportive. I believe the only outstanding item is the signage. I believe the signage has to come back for separate approval. But I am willing to make the motion in incorporating the recommendations of design review.
I will second Downing.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Further discussion? Michael?
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Sorry, yes, yes.
Gray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. Next is Kruger Group Apartments, new construction. This is at 1270 West 56th Street. Who's here for this one?
Paul Glowacki with Dimmitt Architects.
Okay, great. Paul, raise your right hand.
Peggy Brown. Peggy Brown is also on the line.
Oh, Peggy Brown. Everyone that's going to speak, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear? And when you say I do, state your name for the record. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
Paul Glowacki, I do.
I do.
Hey, Bobby.
Peggy Brown, I do.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Great. Thank you, commission members, for hearing this morning. We have actually presented this project to the design review, the local design review, twice now. First for a preliminary review, we got some comments from them, and then we addressed those. We met with them this past Wednesday, and I think we had a very positive conversation. They just had one additional comment to the project. So I will run through this quickly to expedite on time here. The proposal is for a 4-story apartment building with a 5th-story small space for residents to gather. The project is 30 apartment units and some ground floor amenity spaces and a sloping graded below grade parking lot and some surface parking. Next slide, please. The site is located kind of at the just south of Route 2 The property to the north of this is the Edison apartments and townhome project. We have some industrial buildings surrounding it to the west and to the south. Immediately to the south of this project is an industrial building that is actually owned by the Kruger Group that they have renovated into storage on the first floor and offices on the second floor. And to the, we can go to the next slide, we can see some images of the surrounding properties as well. To the center image here is the actual site. Currently is being used as parking, has kind of long been used as parking for the Parkview restaurant across the street, not legally, but that's kind of been its function. And you can see kind of going from the upper left there, the industrial buildings, looking down Breakwater Avenue at the apartments and also down West 58th to the apartments at the Edison, 4-story buildings with some 5-story pop-ups on the corner. The picture to the left is their property to the south, the Kruger Group's property to the south, being renovated. That's even an older photo. It's almost complete at this point. And then the townhomes just to the north across the street on Breakwater, the picture to the right, the venerable Parkview restaurant across the street, and then Caddy Corner open site that is access to the bikeway that goes to Edgewater and then of course down to downtown. Next slide, please. So the project is on the corner of West 58th and Breakwater Avenue. The proposal is to have kind of a ground floor that is both access to the parking and some ground floor amenity spaces for the apartment building itself. The access vehicularly off of West 58th goes into a sloping garage that slopes to the west. And then on the far west portion of the site on Breakwater, there's also a vehicular access point for parking that is at grade. So it kind of stacks over at some sections that show that further on in the presentation. At the corner of West 58th and Breakwater, we're proposing the main entry to the building. So we'll have lobby, possibly some leasing offices, and some mail rooms, access to stairs and elevators at that main corner entry. And then working our way down Breakwater Avenue, we're proposing building amenities. A fitness room will be in there. Further down on the west, almost at the parking, surface parking there on the west, is our trash room that will access out to Breakwater. And then just kind of notably on the site plan to the south, between this new building and the existing building, we will have an access for an entrance to their building to the south. And then on the west end of this building, there is also an access point to their building to the south. The proposal is for 30 apartment units, one, twos, and studios in a mix on the upper floors. There's 3 stories above this. And we are proposing 44 parking spaces, and some of those will be used. We have 9 dedicated spaces for the tenant to the south. So we are still over the zoning requirement for parking spaces for both the apartment, for all of the units in the apartment building. Next slide, please. The typical upper, second, third, and fourth floor plans, units, corridor, and stairs, and then a small 5th floor with a club room and a outdoor deck space, taking advantage of the views. You can see on this plan, all of the units are proposed to have balconies, which we think creates kind of a nice breakdown of the scale of the building. And we'll see that in some of the elevations and 3D studies. Next slide, please. This is the landscape plan. I'll let Peggy Brown speak to these.
Thank you. As you can see, there's not a whole heck of a lot of landscaping involved, so we've tried to make the biggest bang for what we could with the space we're allocated on. There's a lot of power lines, both West 58th and Breakwater, so We're using some slender silhouette sweet gums that will be on 58th, and those will wrap the front of the building over on breakwater, and then switching to a hot wings hedge maple that's going to get some size and width, so you'll be able to walk under a canopy, but again, they'll stay underneath the lines. And the rest of the landscaping is all drought tolerant, native or adaptive use for the area, and then mostly ornamental grasses with a few shrubs. We are proposing some bike racks on that west end of the building that will be under the overhang from the building above, that will have some can lighting and recessed lighting in that overhang to provide some safe and secure lighting and a little bit of accent on those bike racks. The next sheet. This is just a sampling of the plant material. Again, the really upright, tight habit of those slender silhouettes that'll be on 58th, so they'll bypass the lines. And then against the face of the building on breakwater, the hot wings maples to give a little bit of color and splash through some marrows that will be on it. And then the mix of ornamental grasses, a few flowering shrubs, but working on a lot of fall color with a choice of plant material along with some evergreen to give it a four-season look to the building. The bike rack, we're choosing something a little bit more sculptural and artistic endeavor there instead of just a plain typical bike rack look. So to add a little bit of punch on that west face of the building as well. And that's it.
Next slide, please. And just, I didn't mention it, but we did submit this for a zoning review. We have one variance currently noted that we have to discuss with the city, which is the south lot line setback from the lot line, and we're discussing whether that is a rear or a side yard setback. But other than that, we do not have any zoning variances that we are requesting. Just a quick couple of sections through the building here to kind of show how that parking is working, sloping down to the west, and then getting the surface parking lot over the top of it. And then also the fitness area staying at grade as you go down breakwater. Next slide, please. This is the elevation on West 58th Street. So we are using the balconies throughout the building to kind of create a breakdown of the massing, and working with kind of some of the architecture around this property, the more industrial language, the masonry, obviously the brick, bringing that material in, but taking much more of a modern approach than kind of just doing a industrial kind of refresh. And so the building, works its way down West 58th from the south. Their adjacent building is in that darker red brick to the left of the slide. And we work to scale the building up, starting with a kind of single story portion of the garage, and then building up into the apartments themselves. So we're at 4 stories, and then in the corner to give a much more solid presence to the corner of West 58th and Breakwater, working our way up to a 5-story portion for that, the amenity space up on the roof. The parking garage portion of this elevation really is kind of the only portion where you actually see the parking garage. So we have right there in the middle, the balcony slot comes all the way down, and there's the entrance to the garage, just a single door there. So we're trying to really lessen the presence of the garage on the street and the interaction between the pedestrian and the vehicles entering in and out of that garage. We've done this in a number of different places in terms of signals, whether that be lighted signals or audio signals, to allow when the cars are going in or out, that garage door is opening, the pedestrian would be notified of them coming out. And you'll see this much better, I think, in some of the 3D images, so I'll kind of go through this quickly. But the portion of the garage, we are planning on screening there with like a mesh material that will be backlit. We will have some signage, which of course we will come back once that is designed for approval. And we are planning on locating that on that facade there. And then as you see right between the existing building to the south and this new building, carrying that metal mesh across as a gate as an entrance to the pathway to their building there. As we move down Breakwater down 58th towards the corner of Breakwater, The building opens up on the lower level. We'll have quite a bit of glass, and that metal ACM metal panel wraps itself around from the upper portion of the units down to the entry. And the brick box right there on the corner is actually cantilevered a couple feet to create an entry, covered entry over the main entry to the building. We are proposing some metal tie rods and some steel structural decorative elements to really kind of create a focal point on this corner. And the next slide that wraps around over to the breakwater side. So that glass and ACM metal panel carries around the corner, and then again wraps itself up along that balcony. As we go along the breakwater elevation, the building's kind of grounded on the corner, and then we've also grounded it on each end of the building. The stair tower, kind of that massive brick coming down to the grade. And then the middle section of the building also has these floating balconies and residential elements that float over the storefront that is recessed back, and that would be the fitness area back there. And then as we get to the very end of the building, the very last west unit is recessed back to kind of create that other floating element. If we can go to the next slide. The rear of the building, so the far right of this, because of the height of the building to the south, we are taking and wrapping that brick facade of that massing around. So as you come up West 58 to the north, you would still see this massing either walking or driving up the street. And then as the building then recesses back further and it's hidden behind the existing storage building to the south, we're transitioning over to a ribbed metal panel in kind of a variety of panel orientations. Next slide, please. And then this would be the far west elevation. That end unit again, not cantilevered out, but floating on structure. Continues that ACM panel, so really high quality materials kind of wrapping all the way around the building. As this is kind of open as you go down breakwater from west to east, we wanted to make sure that that had some high quality materials. I will note the one comment that we received from the local design review board was they would like to see maybe a few more windows on this elevation. And so we are open to that and can definitely incorporate that as that was one of their strong suggestions. Next slide, please. Materials that we're proposing, obviously brick and the ACM metal panel will be the predominant materials on the building. We are going with kind of a little bit more of a traditional brick color, one that the Kruger Group has used on some projects that they've worked on, one in Chicago specifically, very handsome brick. And then the gray ACM metal panels. You can see the metal mesh screen that we're proposing at the garage that I mentioned, and then some decorative elements. The stainless steel tie rods and connectors kind of at that main entry. And then as it continues along the fitness, we're incorporating that there as well. Some aluminum window fins at specific locations. You'll see much more in the 3D views. In terms of lighting, we are proposing these wall sconces. We will have a larger 18-inch version up-down light at the main entries to the building, and those are located here on this elevation at the bottom. And then a smaller version of that, a 12-inch sconce at the balcony lights. Those will be on a light sensor so that those will all go on at the same time. That way it kind of creates a consistent lighting scheme to the entire building. The entry portions at the fitness area where we have that kind of recessed glass portion on breakwater, we will be proposing can lights to kind of create a nice wash over that whole thing. So that'll have a floating effect both during the daytime and at the nighttime. And that will also be the same with the unit to the very west, the metal box. That whole portion where the surface parking is will also have can lights, which will be dual function, obviously aesthetics, but also for safety concerns at that location. The balconies will have this vertical cable railing component. So trying to create a very light balcony so it kind of fades away, but not creating that ladder effect that you have a lot with the horizontal cables there. The windows proposed will be of a kind of a dark gray color to match the storefront and the ACM metal panels. Next slide, please. We're going to get into some of the 3D images here. So this is the view at the corner of West 58th and Breakwater, looking across kind of from the northeast of the park. I think you can really start to see the floating masses that we're doing, the way that we've broken down the mass of the building, and how it steps down 58th, especially scale-wise, from that kind of taller, more solid corner, and then to the existing building, and even the existing building to the south steps down. So we're really kind of following that pattern. And this, the scale of this building, I think, is very much in the scale of the Edison project, and of course meets the zoning requirements. Next slide, please. The view across on West 58th. Next slide, please. This, I think, gives maybe a little bit more clear view of the building on the west as you come down Breakwater, how that end unit will kind of float out there. Again, taking that ACM metal all the way around this until you get to where the building really steps back on the west facade. Next slide, please. Another view of that corner, just getting a little closer in. Next slide, please. Kind of an aerial view, just showing again more of the breakdown of the building, how that surface parking works to the west. Next slide, please. Kind of a close up of that entry that I was talking about. So we have kind of that decorative tie rods there, just kind of creating a little bit more of an accent to the corner entry of the building. Kind of see how the building has the overhang there to create some protection from the weather as you're entering the main lobby. Next slide, please. Just a view of that back corner, because you don't see that too much, but showing the parking there and then the building to the south. Next slide, please. Just some close-up views of some of those decorative elements. This is the view as you walk down Breakwater. Next slide, please. And the view, I think this is a really good view of kind of that metal mesh screening that we're planning on the parking garage there, and kind of how that incorporates into the rest of the materials of the building. That may be the last slide. Next slide, please. Yep.
Okay, commission members, questions?
I move approval incorporating the design review comments.
Second, Curry. I think it's a wonderful project too. Just wanted to say that.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Booker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I must recuse myself from this next presentation.
I also need to as well, because we have an investment, foundation has dollars in this project as well. So I'll recuse myself.
Well, here, and we got another problem. We got Crossroads, which is an art piece that they're leaving at 11 o'clock. So let's do this. We'll do, because we don't want to lose the form for this one either. We'll do this one first. This one got passed with no comments, so maybe we can do this one quickly, this Innovation Square, and then we got to go right to Crossroads, otherwise we're going to lose the presenter. So everyone that's going to speak to Innovation Square Phase 1, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury? Please say yes and state your name.
I do. Krista Pisarczyk.
You're by yourself then. Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your time this morning. And since you've seen this before, I will try to be brief. This first plan just gives you a little bit of context to remind you of where we are. We are fronting East 105th Street, Opportunity Corridor at the very northern end, south of Cedar and the Cleveland Clinic, and north of Quincy Avenue. Next slide. Just quickly a reminder of the other investments that are going on, as well as the fact that this is part of a greater neighborhood-wide plan, a vision that the local CDC, Fairfax Renaissance Development Corporation, has developed, that we developed in partnership with them about 4 or 5 years ago. As you can see, there's a vision for the whole neighborhood that includes rebuilding the disinvestment that has taken place here, reinforcing the housing stock, and creating a green space, Playwright Park, which has already been constructed. And on the next slide, you'll see some of the other mixed-use developments from outside investors and other community partners that are planned for in and around this area, including the clinic's biorepository and a mixed-use development with a grocery and apartments just to the north of this building. Next slide. So here you can see the existing conditions of the site. It's vacant land and just some scrub and some scraggly trees that are kind of hanging out on the site today. Next slide. Here, north is to the left, just to help orient you. East 105th Street is to the top of your screen. As you can see, we have pushed the building per the urban form overlay that was adopted by this commission for this neighborhood. So we are following all of those guidelines. We've worked with city planning to ensure that everything we're showing here aligns with the vision for that form. Not a lot has changed since the last time I was here. You know, we're still around 77 parking spaces. That number will increase as soon as we're able to acquire that missing lot from the foreclosure process. But you can see that the building has a great presence on East 105th Street and the future Hudson Avenue that is not there today, but we are working with the city to get that constructed here very soon. Next slide. Here is our landscape plan. And if you can see that there is it is very densely landscaped. The owner developer team in McCormick, Bear, and Salazar that is partnering here with Fairfax Renaissance takes a lot of pride in their properties and their appearance. And if you go to the next slide, you can see the palette of those materials that we are looking to plant here. It's a very colorful seasonal palette to bring a lot of interest. They do plan to irrigate the site so that it will receive proper watering and it will look nice throughout the season. We have a selection of our site furniture here as well. Many of these pieces mimic those that were already installed in Playwright Park that is diagonal from this property. So we're trying to develop a common language and a continuity within this neighborhood just to help keep it look pulled together. Next slide. Here's our lighting plan. The yellow haze kind of indicates so that you can find where the fixtures are on the site. We have a mixture of building lighting, pathway lighting, canopy lights, lighting in the parking lot. These halos do not represent the reaches of the illumination. We have done a full study and determined that there is a very sufficient, adequate level of lighting across the whole site so that safety in sight is not a concern. And the next slide will show you the fixtures that we're proposing to use. The two on the top are our wall fixtures, depending on where we are in the building and what we're trying to illuminate. You will see those. They will be of a matching color. These are just, the catalog images that are available of them. The bollards on the lower left are what we'll be using for the pathway lighting. They are the same ones that are in Playwright Park. We have the taller fixture for the parking lots, and then we have decorative string lights that we will be using on the outdoor patio as well as the roof deck that I'll show you where those are in a few minutes. Next slide, please. Here's a ground floor plan on the site to show you what is where in the building. To give you a little bit of context, there is our community and fitness rooms, our leasing offices. Those are all activating that prominent corner to provide activity and visibility on that street corner. And then the balance of the buildings are our residential units with our primary living spaces facing outwards to add to that kind of eyes on the street and activity feel. You can also see hints of it here on the site plan that any of the units on the ground floor, with the exception of those on 105th Street, those other units will have outdoor patio spaces for those residents. It's a nice added feature that we'll have here. We feel it's a very nice amenity to have since we have the opportunity for it here. The next couple of slides are the floor plans. The second and third floors stack. The fourth floor also does. And then you'll notice that it's just a partial floor plan. It peels back because, as a reminder, we wanted to have that strong presence on Opportunity Corridor fitting for the area. But then stepping the building down as it returns into the neighborhood allows us to kind of step that scale down so that it feels more appropriate, and then also allows us the opportunity to open up views towards downtown, over the neighborhood, provide a rooftop lounge and deck amenity space. And we feel like this is a really great feature to have, especially because this is a mixed use or a mixed income building. So this speaks to a lot of the ability, both the market rate and the more affordable component here. These are just really nice spaces to have for those. So the next slide. This is the floor plans for the residential units. We can see we have a mix of studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms. They are we're at 82 units, which is the same as before. Our unit mix since the last time just shuffled up a little bit to allow us to tighten up the efficiency of the building, but we are still maintaining that same unit types. A number of these units have accessibility, universal design components. That is something that's really important to the developers. So we have been happy to include those components in this building. And then the next slide. You can see our elevations. These are the 2 primary elevations. The top one fronts East 105th Street. The bottom one, the future Hudson Avenue. As you can see, we've got in the top left and the bottom right, there is our kind of extended out jewel box, if you will, of a brick feature on this corner of the building. You can see that the ground floor underneath it is recessed a little bit to announce its prominence here, where those community and fitness rooms are. We have a mix of brick, corrugated metal siding, some metal panel, and the textured brown color is also a metal panel, but it will have a wood look to bring some warmth to this building. On the lower left, you can see that that is where we have our outdoor patio, and it is enclosed. The structure there is a sort of pergola type structure to provide like some shading and some privacy to continue those building lines along that stretch of the future street. But the other nice thing about this is that it kind of talks catty corner to Playwright Park at that intersection. So it kind of draws on and opens up that corner to really create a community feel. And on the top here, you can start to see the resident lounge and roof deck. On the next slide, it shows our two rear elevations. And it's really important to note that we have continued to use the same materials around the entire building. We have not used a lesser grade of material at the back of this because we know that across the street, as this development continues, this may be the back of this building, but it's the front of somebody else's home. So we wanted to make sure that it looks nice, 360 degrees. So next slide. I believe we have a close-up of our colors and our palette here, just those materials that I described with our brick masonry and black windows and the different grays of the siding, depending on which section you are in with the bays to add a little bit of interest. And of course, the aluminum siding and the different wood tones to provide, again, that warmth and that texture. Next slide. And here we just have just a couple of renderings to give you a little bit more of a perspective. This is the primary one at the corner of East 105th to your right, the future Hudson extension to your left. You can see the roof deck kind of in the top starting to peel back as this steps down into the neighborhood. Next slide. Here's a view from the back. You can see that we are screening our parking, creating that lush landscape edge and a lot of trees on the site. And just looking at those materials that we are continuing around the building. And I think there's maybe one more slide. There you go. This one is showing you that open resident lounge at the top, the patio at the ground floor, our masonry screen wall that we're using to kind of hold that edge and create the privacy at those patios. It's just a low wall, so there is a little bit of like transparency at that line, and of course the landscaping here. And I believe that concludes my presentation.
Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
Who seconded it?
Director Collier has his hand raised, and so does Commissioner Scott.
Okay, Director.
Yes, just really quick. I just want to say that this is a plan and a project that's very much consistent with a number of plans with respect to the Opportunity Corridor, go figure, and also consistent with the Thrive 105-93 plan, where we've identified key nodes. There were illustrations in that plan that almost mirror this actual building design. So kudos to city architecture with respect to staying in alignment with the proposals. So from a departmental perspective, we actually fully endorse this. And there are some other developments along this stretch that are yet to come, but that are, are going to be ready to go pretty soon. So we're really excited about the build out of this. Thank you.
Thanks. Who else?
Commissioner Scott?
The only question I had was about the parking. Is that secured parking or is it open?
So it is not secured. We do not have plans at this stage to fully gate it off. There will be that contingency if there is a need for it in the future, but we are not planning to do that. There's just, the masonry walls will just end kind of at the driveways for the residents to pull in.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Michael?
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Ray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Motion carries. Let's move on to Crossroads. Public art, because we're gonna lose that person pretty soon if we don't hurry.
Thank you, Chairman. For the record, I'm Tara Petrus, the Public Art Coordinator for the City of Cleveland. This project, Crossroads, Still We Rise, is a first of its kind augmented reality exhibit in the city. And I say first of its kind as far as an exterior installation. It's been done inside at the Art Museum. This is brought to us by the Sculpture Center, and the project locations are in 5 different underserved neighborhoods of Cleveland: Buckeye, Central, Glenville, Kinsman, and Slavic Village. There are going to be 2 locations at each of those in each of those communities in wards 5, 6, 9, and 10, and an additional 2 sites in East Cleveland, which obviously isn't under your purview. And they use an app to be able to access the augmented reality art. I'm in full support of this project. It's nice to see technology-driven projects. So obviously the art doesn't physically exist in the space. But I am going to turn this over to the Executive Director of the Sculpture Center, Grace Chan, to go through the particulars. And I do want to mention that all of the artists are local artists. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Grace.
Grace, you're muted.
Can we help with that, Maurice?
No, she has to unmute herself.
Now am I good?
You're
we
good.
can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are. The Sculpture Center is a cultural institution on the eastern edge of University Circle, and we provide the critical resources to sculptors to help advance their journey. Next slide. Next slide, please. I want to tell you about a new program we are launching this year called Crossroads. It's an exhibition that uses immersive technology to connect artists, their artwork, and our communities around issues of importance. This year is the first of its kind in Cleveland. We're in 12 locations across Cleveland. Next slide, please. I mentioned immersive technology. We are using augmented reality to experience the artwork. Augmented reality is a way of digitally imposing objects in the real world space. For this exhibition, we're using a specific app that you download on your device, and you will go around the city at each of the sites and open that app to view the artwork. Next slide. These are the artists who are participating, 12 artists. They're all Cleveland-based, all African-American, multi-generational. Next slide. These are the neighborhoods where our art can be viewed. They're all East Side neighborhoods that have been lost in the racial divide. They are Buckeye, Central, Glenville, Kinsman, Slavic Village, and East Cleveland. Okay, next. Keep going. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the art that one would see on a site. If you look at the 2 images on the screen, when you go to the physical site and you open the app, this is the artwork that you'll see in the space. So the 2 here are in Buckeye. The first one is East 99th and Buckeye, that intersection. The second one is Schofield Mansion. And each of these sites have some kind of historic relevance to either the history of Cleveland, the neighborhood now, or the artists themselves. Next slide. These are the artworks you'll see in Central at the Goodwill building, which was the former site of the Majestic Hotel, a hotel that was primarily for African-American clientele, and the Woodland Cemetery. Next slide. These are the works you'd see in Glenville at the site of the Glenville High School and Rec Center and Corey Methodist Church. Okay, next slide. These are in Kinsman. We give note to the box spot and also to the Riddall Green Partnership. Okay, next. In Slavic Village, we are pointing out the empty lots. And this one in particular is next to the Bagley Nichols building on Broadway, which was very close to the central downtown that once served Slavic Village. And the second image is in front of the Elizabeth Baptist Church, which is close to the Slavic Village side of the Sideaway Bridge. So this artist placed a recreation of the bridge at this location. She's part of a team of individuals who are working to resurrect that bridge in the future. Next slide. And in East Cleveland, you would see the artwork in front of the gates, the columns of the Ed Parker Creative Arts Complex, and also along the Forest Hills footbridge. I believe that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
This is Lillian. It's a great project, and I move approval.
I'll second Downing.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good luck. Next is Near West Design Review, West 20th Street and the Smith Townhomes new construction. And this is for schematic design approval. Who's here for this? Anyone? West 20th Street and Smith Townhomes new construction.
Should be Katie McCoy.
We have Wesley Harper.
There we go.
Okay. Hey, Wes, are you on the line?
I am, yes.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So for this project, we are in Duck Island, West 20th Street and Smith Court. Smith Court runs east-west in between Lorraine and Abbey, and then West 20th runs from Lorraine to Abbey as well, but then back south towards Wiley and north towards the Stoneleigh project, which is going up right now. Next. So here you can see the footprint of our site. It is West 20th on the west side of the project, Smith Court on the south, and then West 20th Place kind of snakes to the north from Smith Court on the east side of the project site. There's obviously been a lot of redevelopment in this area, and so this is kind of the next step. The larger block to the south of us is a future, most likely multifamily mixed-use project, which would likely be 4 to 5 stories. It's been zoned as such. And so we think that the development that we're proposing here today is kind of the step down from that in terms of density, and then kind of meeting into the existing context of single-family homes. Next. So the existing context, we have images here of West 20th Street. Starting at the top left, we have some single-family duplexes and I think even a triplex on West 20th Street, which is an increasingly more heavily trafficked street, as it's one of the primary connections from downtown to Duck Island, as well as Tremont further to the east. The image in the middle shows the 4 houses which would be demolished for this project. The image to the top right is the existing corner of Smith and West 20th Street. The image at the bottom left is one of the homes which would remain north of us on West 20th Street, of which there would be 3. Across the street, the bottom middle of the presentation here is the Morgan Linen Company. They basically process dirty linens from restaurants across the city. The facility itself is kind of a light industry with a large surface parking lot fronting West 20th Street. At the bottom right, you can see the kind of the full scope or full view north on West 20th Street with downtown in the background. Next. Some further context imagery. At the top left, you can see West 20th Place heading north from Smith Court. There's already a handful of new homes on this extremely tight alley on the west side of the street, and then the east side of the street contains mostly garages off of West 20th Place. At the top right, you can see the current condition of the larger Abbey block to the south of us. It's currently being used as a staging area for fill for the Stoneleigh project to the north. Middle left, you can see Smith Court, some of the new housing that's flanking West 19th Street to the east. Next. So the proposed plan that you see in front of you is kind of the next steps that we've taken since we had the lot split approved for the single family house that you can see facing West 20th Place. And so basically what we're doing is wrapping the west and southern property lines with townhomes, and then there's 2 single family homes kind of off the driveway in the middle of the project site. As you can see, we've got the existing 3 homes remaining to the north of us on West 20th Street. And then you can see the larger footprints of the new homes that exist on West 20th Place. So this has been an area of a transition. There's been, again, a lot of new development over here, and this is the next step in that. You can see along West 20th Street, we have inset parallel parking. Through our going through the neighborhood process, we've gotten feedback that people would rather have the larger tree lawn remain there, so we're going to be eliminating that parking on West 20th Street and basically line it with street trees. And since the developer, Matt Burgess, he projects puts the electrical lines underground, we'd be removing the overhead wires here on 20th Street, which would allow us to have larger growth trees in the tree lawn, which will kind of, in my opinion, make 20th a much more pedestrian friendly experience. Next. So here you can see an elevated view looking towards the northeast of the project. Our scope today is the kind of the white and gray colored units here. To the right, you can see what we would expect to be a larger multifamily project. And so again, it's kind of stepping down from that larger development, which would happen to the south, our site here, and then down to the single family homes on 20th. You can see we're basically creating a new context in many ways along 20th and Smith as well. The units are organized to have the roof access structure towards the west and to the south, which would allow the roof decks to get expansive views of downtown from the rear of the units. Next. These renderings are also somewhat out of date, showing the inset parking. So that would actually just be a larger tree lawn with more trees. And then another advantage of this is to make garbage day a little bit more organized, where adding 15 units to the street means we've got 30 recycling and trash cans. So this tree lawn will also accommodate that a little more easily. The units themselves are clad in horizontally oriented cement board, and then very simple punched openings for the sliding doors, which would become Juliet balconies with railings in front of them. Next. So in terms of the pedestrian experience, we were, of course, very conscious of that. And so we wanted to have a good amount of planting along the sidewalk and then also define each entry to each unit. So we have an alternating color defining that vertical portion of the entry. And then we have a horizontal element that kind of sticks out from that entry area, defining each of those spaces. You know, the units themselves are very similar across this facade. However, the way we've oriented the buildings individually kind of creates a bit more of a random layout of the forms of this. And so, you know, in order to break up this larger facade, we have the facade moving in and out relative to West 20th, which we think is successful here. Next. Here's a view showing the existing context to the north of us. You know, of course, it's rather difficult sometimes to completely match the scale and proportions that exist with the context around us, but in a gesture of, you know, trying to step down to the context, we have the shorter portion of the unit closest to the northern context, you know, at its lowest point. Next. Just another elevated view. Next. Here's a view at ground level from 20th and Smith. And so Smith, we think, you know, can really be transformed into a very pedestrian-friendly experience. Right now, it's just basically a dusty, forgotten sidewalk at this point. Next. Another straight-on view units. Next. Here's kind of an elevated view. To your right, you see West 20th Place as it dead ends to the north. And these are the units that face Smith. Next. Here is the single family home facing West 20th Place, and then the units to the left. So, you know, there is you know, quite a bit happening back here. Next. Another view of Smith and West 20th Place. Next. And so here is our material palette. Again, the horizontally oriented cement board, smooth finish concrete, black metal panels, and fiberglass windows, and then you know, a variety of lighting options. So to this point, we've been to Near West Design Review. We were approved for schematic design. We've also been to Block Club, where we were, the conversation really centered around that inset parking on West 20th Street. And then the same for Tremont West Economic Development Committee. Since there were no variances, because we're in the townhouse code, letters of support were not required from Tremont or the Block Club. And so in our meeting with Near West, there were a couple changes that were requested, which we're going to comply with. We're going to be adding a front porch element to the units that face Smith and West 20th, and then attempt to get some vegetation into the driveways off of Smith and West 20th Place. So with that, I'm opening it up for comment. I guess you guys are reviewing for design review and schematic design.
Commission members?
Mr. Chairman, we have Commissioner Scott, we have VW White 2 has their hand raised, and Donna Gregonis.
Go ahead, Scott.
That was a mistake. I'm sorry. You can move on.
No problem.
Okay. Who's next? Maurice?
We did have a VW White. I don't know who that is.
Okay,
VW White, and then we also have Donna Gregonis.
My apologies. This is Valencia White, and I didn't have any questions about this presentation. I'm just going to open chat to the chairman. My apologies.
That's okay. Donna,
Okay,
go
then
ahead.
Good morning. Thank you. This is Donna Gorgonis with Ohio City Incorporated and Tremont West Development Corporation's the Neighborhood Development Director for both CDCs. Wesley did come before the Economic Development Committee and the Block Club, and some things that they did bring up. I know Wes mentioned that the drawings don't reflect the accurate regarding the parking. So I wanted to make sure that they will be removing the on-street parking, as the community and the committee both did not want that. And then there was also some concern regarding where the garbage collection would be and how that would look. So wanted to make sure focused on that. And then additionally, because the treatment of the drive concrete, at minimum, they were asking if there could be some maybe human scale pedestrian wayfinding along the way, or maybe pavers for pedestrians leading to the back houses. So those are just some of the few comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is for schematic design commission members.
I'll move approval incorporating the requests from the community organization.
Second, Fluker.
Okay, motion and second, further discussion? Michael? Michael? Call the roll?
Sorry about that. My mouse wasn't moving the way I wanted it to. Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Trey Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next is proposed demolition of a two-story mixed-use building, seeking final approval according to ordinance 341.08. This is at 2843 West 25th Street. Who's here for this, please?
Katie McCoy, I'm one of the owners.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Go ahead, Katie, and try to make it brief.
Okay, yes, I'll let you guys just, if you want to just scroll through the pictures while I'm talking, that's totally fine. Basically, we're seeking demolition of this building. And I just included some pictures for you guys to see that it's pretty run down and inside and out is falling apart. We've gone through the Near West design review and gotten approval there. We've gotten letters of support from several council persons, Tremont West, Economic Development. So right now we're just proposing to take this building down due to liability and just being a giant eyesore. It's far past any sort of repair and has been vacant for years. And then we're just going to make a green space with the hopes of at some point in the near future building something there, but we don't really have a plan for that other than just green space right now.
Commission members?
Looks like we have Councilman Brancatelli with his hand raised.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to lend my 2 cents in support of this demolition. I've been to this location. A little bit of disclosure, I am a full supporter of the animal hospital. They do amazing work and have made an amazing investment. And just going through this building, knowing how horrible condition it is and what it's attracting over in that intersection, eliminating this nuisance condition for green space would be a positive.
Thank you, Councilman.
And I'm not sure if Donna Gorgonis is commenting on this. Yes, okay. Wasn't sure if it was from before. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Donna Gorgonis again with Tremont West Development Corporation. So we are in support of this demolition and welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commission members, if you're not convinced by now.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion. Michael, call the roll.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Northeast Design Review, proposed demolition of a one-story commercial building, seeking final approval per 341.08 of Cleveland's codified ordinance. This is at 788 East 185th Street. Who's here for this one?
I am Valencia White, also our demolition compliance officer, Alex Abramowitz.
Okay, go ahead, Valencia.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to be as brief as possible because we'll be losing our conference room soon. So demolition. Say again?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I said, go ahead.
Okay, so demolition is seeking the approval of this building. The current owner has had the property for over 25 years, and since October of 1995 has not tried to redeem the property or bring it out of condemnation. It has been condemned for over 3 years, since October 19th, and it has been vacant since November 2015. The outstanding taxes on this property is $5,971. And Councilman Polenzek supports this demolition. Our site plan is to remove the land, to have the land cleared, graded, and seeded with straw. Next 2 slides, please. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a site location showing the street of East 185th and the different properties that are on East 185th. The red little indicator shows the actual property that we will be seeking approval for demolition. You can go to the next slide. This is the next closer view of the site in context. Next slide. So that's the front of the property on 185th, and then the bottom photo shows the garage that's in the back of this property. Next slide. That's another view of the back of the property, and the bottom photo shows the inside conditions of the garage. Next slide. These are interior photos of this structure. You can see that there is some water damage. Next slide. So the top view is a property located across the street. That address is 785-291 East 185th Street. It's owned by Dorothy Lewis. The center photo is located to the south of the proposed demolished structure. That address is 790 East 185th Street. And the bottom photo is the northeast photo of the northeast property that's located next to our proposed demo.
All right, thank you. So it sounds like everyone takes care of their property except for this one. Obviously, there's no historic significance of the building. So commission members, what's your pleasure?
Said demolition.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Cray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. Proposed demolition of a one-story commercial building seeking final approval per 341.08 of Cleveland's codified ordinance. This is located at 786 East 105th Street. Who's here for this one?
Present here for this one.
Hello?
I'm Shanika Brown.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury.
I do.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, this here is the demolition of a building contacted by the the homeowner purchased this building. It realized the condition that it was in. So we're looking to demolish the building and just plant grass there. He owns the building on the left side and the right side. It's a 1,500 square feet building. It was built in 1930, so it's 91 years old, but the roof has collapsed in section of the floors. This is a picture of the top of the roof. That is the front. Again, he owns the properties on the left and the right-hand side. That is the interior showing that what shape it is in. So we couldn't fix it up. And this is our plan to demolish it, just grow grass in the area of the building.
I move to approve demolition as stated.
We have Sharonda Watley with her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Just very quickly, Sharonda Watley, Cleveland City Planning. I'm the neighborhood planner for this area. So there was quite a bit of discussion about this demolition. There was some concern that this parcel would become additional parking for the automobile repair that is to the right of the subject or the left of the subject property. And so we wanted to make sure that this lot was simply graded and seeded. There is right now an informal gravel parking lot at the rear of the subject property. And so there was a condition to also pull up that gravel. So again, that this lot becomes a vacant green graded and seeded lot.
Okay, so August, you made the motion. Can you incorporate the lot behind it being seeded to graded and seeded?
Yes.
In my initial motion to include the abatement of the rear lot as well.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Motion second, further discussion. Michael, call the roll, please.
Bowen,
Yes.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yeah.
Ray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next is Cuyahoga TAY apartment building, new construction, seeking schematic approval. This is at 1415, 1415 and 1430 East 45th Street. Who's here for this?
Hi, I'm here. Ellen Kurtner-LaFleur from CHN Housing Partners, and Brian, our architect, is also here.
If you both could raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Wonderful. If you could move to the next slide. I'm going to give a quick introduction just to the development, the concept, and the team of partners, and then Brian will review the overall design with the group here. So this building is referred to as Cuyahoga TAY, which stands for Transition Aged Youth. Here we're specifically referring to young adults who are ages 18 to 24. So this is a supportive housing building designed to serve those young adults who are experiencing homelessness. It's an apartment building where all residents will be signing 12-month leases. We understand that there is really a substantial need in our community for housing options like this for young adults. We know just in 2020, based on the by name list, there were 512 young adults in Cuyahoga County who are experiencing homelessness. And so this is an opportunity to step in and meet that need. This development received an award of low-income housing tax credits from OFA this year, and we're also assembling the remaining financing. And we have voucher commitments from our local continuum of care as well as CMHA to allow us to provide flexible support to our residents to make the units completely affordable no matter their situation. We have 38 one-bedroom and 12 two-bedroom units, and the two-bedroom units are specifically designed and targeted so that we can support young adults who are parenting. We know, again, from the local by name list and the data in our community that that's a need that needs to be met. The building will have on-site social services managed by Frontline and amenities to support the young adults' needs, interests, and goals. We'll also have on-site property management and a 24/7 staffed front desk to support our resident safety and the community safety. Next slide, please.
Can't come in here and park, but you can.
So just to give you an idea of the partners involved in this development, this is a team with a track record of success in supportive housing. You'll see CHN, Sisters of Charity Foundation, Eden, Frontline Enterprise, have all worked together previously on the Housing First initiative, which created 782 units of permanent supportive housing across 11 buildings in our community as part of an effort to eliminate long-term homelessness. In that effort, we've seen less than 5% of our Housing First residents return to homelessness, and it's led to an overall 80% reduction in long-term homelessness in our community. So we're really excited to take what was successfully done at Housing First and adapt it to serve the needs of youth and young adults in our community. And to do that, we've also partnered with A Place for Me and the Reach Youth Action Board. And the Reach Youth Action Board is a group of young adults with lived experience who have really helped to guide us in a number of ways on this development, but particularly on site selection, design, you know, from the overall feel of the building down to small details that'll make it just as suitable and positive as possible for our residents. Next slide, please. And just to give a little more information of why the building is set up as it is and kind of how it will function, we're using the supportive model, which is person-centered. The individual has safe, stable, and non-time limited housing, and then they have the opportunity to interact with property management and supportive service providers all on site. So the team is all really working together to make sure that those residents can meet their goals and get the services that they need to succeed. We know that supportive housing is a best practice for young adults, but this type of housing just really isn't available yet in our community for this group of residents. You know, these types of developments have been implemented successfully in Columbus and Cincinnati, and we've really learned from what they're doing there to implement here. Next slide, please. And just as I turn it over to Brian, I wanted to center us on kind of the core values of this development that's really guided everything we've done so far. And you can read them here, but I just want to flag two of them. The first one being youth leadership. Again, it's been so important to have the young adults contribute to every aspect of developing this building. And then flexibility. We want to make sure that this is tailored and providing the best possible space for our residents. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian for the design.
Thanks, Ellen. What we're looking at here is obviously the site aerial. The project property parcels are located and span between East 45th Street and East 47th Street. So it does have frontage on both, and it is between Superior and St. Clair Avenue. The items that I'd like to draw your attention to are the parcel in yellow to the south towards Superior. Those properties are primarily commercial and industrial manufacturing in nature, whereas the other surrounding properties to the east, west, and north are primarily single family. So we're looking at this site as kind of a buffer site in both use and position. Next slide, please. So this is the parcel East 47th Street on the right and 45th on the left. The building in white, you see it kind of zigzags, and again, working off of this transition or buffer parcel, we wanted the building also to buffer the single family homes and properties from the manufacturing to the south. So the building itself kind of zigzags, trying to minimize the impact of the massing on the single family homes to the north, as well as trying to keep the building and apartments away from the more commercial properties down below. What this also does, and was directed by the Reach Youth Action Board, was to also start to divide some of the on-site program elements. So there is a young children's playground, secured playground to the north. That's what the kind of yellow box is tucked into the corner. And that location, that secured area for the younger kids to play, is separated from the basketball court, the parking lot, the more commercial areas. We're also addressing the building closer in an open fashion to East 47th Street. So the building is right up to the property setback, whereas on the East 45th Street, that's more of kind of the public entrance, obviously with a parking lot. There is an on-site resident garden for obviously for the residents properly sited at the south end. Due to the at-risk nature of the residents, we are securing the property. The dashed yellow-orange line around the property is a 6-foot high fence. The design review comments that we received was with a fence, the criticism and concern is that it feels isolated from the neighborhood. It feels separate, whereas our intention is to make it feel part of the neighborhood. So we are trying to minimize the impact of the fence on East 47th Street. Again, kind of our understanding of the residential side of the building or the property. We do want to provide some privacy for those adjacent parcels, so there would be a privacy fence on both the north and south property lines. And then on the East 45th Street property line, we want to take that fence, which would be an open decorative metal fence, and set it back behind the landscape buffer to try to hide and really present the face of the parcel as the landscaping, something nice with some signage. The building would obviously be visible through that. One item that we are following up on and have had a lot of discussion on is the amount of parking. Typically with permanent supportive housing, we find residents do not have cars. In this case, we've done some due diligence investigation, as Ellen said, with transition age youth developments in Cincinnati and Columbus, and found they do have cars. In addition to the staff who are on site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the residents do need parking. So we don't want to overburden the surrounding neighborhood with too few parking spaces and residents parking on the street. So that has been, I think, fully vetted, and we feel that this is a proper number of parking spaces. So just the building layout, just for reference, off of East 47th Street, cars would pass through a boulevard, controlled access boulevard entry, and straight in to the left. The southeast corner of the building is the primary entrance, with common spaces generally located on the left or west side of the building, whereas the residential apartments are towards East 47th Street, with the 2-bedroom family units all being on East 47th Street. Our intention is to fully landscape the parcel, and what you might see, say, on East 47th Street, are the trees are not in the tree lawn. Our assumption initially is to try to match the context of the street. Unfortunately, all the trees in the tree lawn on East 47th Street have been pretty severely cut back by the low-hanging power lines. So we don't want that to happen with these trees. So we still want to landscape the front of the building, but we've pulled them back onto the property to try to avoid that happening here. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the images of all of the landscape materials. There was one comment from design review on a shrub, which we have changed out. It was a Rose of Sharon, so we've replaced that. But otherwise, low maintenance plantings. We can discuss property management if you'd like, although the representative had to step off from Eden. But they take great care in caring for the sites, keeping them clean and managed, and being a good neighbor. So next slide, please. So this is an updated elevation from the design review elevations that we sent out. This is the east elevation, so fronting along East 47th Street. The building construction, for reference, is all load-bearing masonry. So this is not a veneer. We have one primary material on the building, and with that, and with all of the residential units along this facade, we wanted to try to provide some variation in the elevation, obviously, but also kind of allude to some residential features that you normally see in residential construction. So we have this vertical element intending to allude to a brick chimney. We've also revised the window opening sizes to be more of a residential nature, adding some mullion divisions. and maintaining a sloped roof across the entire building. Next slide, please. These are the previous elevations, and at this scale, it's hard to see the differences, but I think in refining the elevations, the fenestration and window opening sizes at a larger scale and in person, it would be much more evident that this is a residential building because of the sizes of the windows and the detailing around the building. So previously we had a flat roof portion of the building, which I think really came out in the design review that it becomes very commercial. And so we've moved to a sloped roof, trying to, again, fit into the context of the more residential neighborhood. Certainly, as asking for schematic approval, we feel that there is further refinement to be done prior to submitting to design review, but this east elevation is the concept elevation that we're basing the rest of the design off of. And we were looking for schematic approval on.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. David had to jump off at 11:30, so I'll be sharing now. So I'm going to ask if any commission members have questions or comments. This is for schematic, or is this schematic approval? So thank you for sharing the changes to this point as well. So commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second. Luker.
We have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Downing.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Cray Scott.
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
We're going to have to move very quickly so we don't lose a quorum. So I'm going to ask for the demolitions that you go extremely quickly. Just give us the highlights so we do not lose a quorum at noon. So please, this one is the proposed demolition of a two-story commercial building, 2021-0, I think 19. Okay, who's here to present for this? If you go back, Maurice, who is someone here to present this one? I will have to
be Anthony Lassiter.
Anthony.
The property owner who presented the demolition to the designer earlier this week.
Okay, Sharonda, are you presenting or are they presenting?
Mr. Lassiter should be presenting, but if he is not here, I can give the committee some comments, or we can table it for the next meeting.
If he's not here, we're going to table it. Is he here?
I move the table.
We have a motion to table.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Downing.
Yes.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Cray Scott.
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
This is EC 2021-017. This is at 1990 Ford Avenue. These are community building now leasing banners. I'm going to have to swear, if Mark, you're the only one presenting on the signs, and ask that you move through quickly. This is conceptual. Is Mark Balin? Yes.
I'm here.
I'm here. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth as usual, answer to penalty of perjury.
Yeah, Mark Balin, I do. The project involves a banner as presented here. Went through the Euclid corridor review with some changes. We are going to be moving the graphic that's up there, moving it underneath the live corridor, the website in leasing. We're going to be shrinking that all down a little bit. So that was the changes that they gave as a conditional approval, and we are now here before you.
Okay. I'm going to
Chair.
go ahead.
We had Kim Scott with her hand raised.
Okay, just one second, but I'll let Kim go, but I'm going to ask, this is conceptual approval. Is that, I'm asking to staff this question.
I think they want final approval. There were two conditions. And the first condition that Mark mentioned was to move the graphic down to the lower portion of the banner. The second condition was to align
That is correct,
the
yeah.
web address with the now leasing to make it, yeah. So
Correct.
this would be
That's
for
going-
final approval, though.
Okay. Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
A motion, do we have a second? With the conditions?
Yes, with conditions.
Do we have a second? Anyone?
Madam Chair, I must recuse.
Okay, that's August. So we have a motion, and it does not seem we have a second unless I'm
I'll
misreading.
second.
Okay, Councilman Slythe, second, can you call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Trey Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have Downtown Flats Design Review 2021-009, St. John's Cathedral Monument Sign. And I think we have Terry Fields here to present. I need to swear you in. Wait, can you go back? Do we need to remove this from the table?
Moved.
This was
Oh,
not
no.
tabled, Madam Chair. It was just
Okay.
under a certain condition.
Okay. So we don't need to remove it. Can I swear you in?
Yes,
if you're here to
please.
speak?
Good morning.
Do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth as usual answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay.
So you guys have seen this before already. It was a slightly smaller version of it. The original screen at this monument sign, the digital screen, was a 3x5. But the diocese determined after doing a mock-up of it that they wanted to go a size larger, to a 5x7 digital screen. And you could see the drawings for that enlargement. It didn't really change the overall feel, but it did obviously increase the scale of the sign. On page 2 are the hardline drawings, and page 3 shows the renderings of the enlarged sign in context.
Okay. So you're here just requesting the approval for the increased signage sign?
That's correct.
Okay.
Lillian, as I recall, when this had come up previously, was staff going to go back and kind of come up with like a downtown wide policy? I recall there being a question of, was this the beginning, setting a precedent for kind of digital signage in the downtown district? Does that ring a bell for anyone?
Yeah, it was less about that. It was that, but it was also about what was going to be shown on it. So there was going to be live streaming of services on it, like real time. And I think there was a sense of sort of research about that. So I don't know if that was resolved, Freddie. That's what I thought I thought we had actually tabled it, but I'm confused.
So, quite frankly, so am I, but it's something that we probably could go back and look at. I don't recall specifically us necessarily agreeing to some type of analysis. And Mike, we might have to go back to our previous commission meetings just to see what we committed to. I don't recall that, but I don't think it'll be a problem to think that through. You do know we are looking at the sign code in general for citywide, and digital signs are a part of that. But I don't recall, commissioners, any commitment about looking at this downtown. So we'll look back, and if there has been, we'll deal with it. Yes.
Director Collier, I'm sorry, and also Madam Chair. I did.
Hey, Mike, can you speak up a little bit?
Sure. On the final agenda that I sent out,
yes,
it does clearly indicate that it was approved with the condition that the staff come up with a policy for live streaming of events for digital signs. So it was actually approved with that condition.
Okay.
Now they've come back
We
with a
have-
bigger screen, but I assume the conditions would still hold. So that's what's in front of you today. It was not tabled.
We have Anthony Santora with his hand raised. Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So as Michael just stated, that this project was approved with the condition. The condition that was put upon it at the previous meeting actually was for the commission to look at it, but it had I believe it was 60-day time limit before implementation. And there was discussions about whether or not that was enough time to begin going through the process and coming up with something for the entire downtown area. And we are working through it currently and having the discussions, as Director Collier stated, and something that we can definitely continue to work forward. But it was approved with that condition beforehand, not tabled.
And do you have, is there a rendering of the sign size we approved and what the new sign is here? I just,
Doesn't appear to be.
Roughly how much
These two
larger is
slides.
this one? Just
It grew in about 2 feet in the horizontal, and it grew by a little less than 2 feet in the vertical. So if you look at the, to elaborate, if you look at the existing, the sheet marked MS-2, the second sheet, previously that 8'4" dimension on detail 1, I believe was 6'4".
Okay.
Or 6 feet 8, actually. Yeah.
Does this
And then the
exceed?
height.
Does this exceed the sign code? The sign? Does this exceed? I guess to staff. Does this exceed the sign ordinance?
Anthony Santora.
Yes, Madam Chair. So it does technically exceed the sign ordinance requirements, and it also is a digital display board. However, the current zoning code allows for variance, either greater or less strict than what is allowable based on City Commission approval, which is why it's being presented to you today.
So it's your preference.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to table. I just would like, it's not this sign in particular, it's what signage is going to be downtown. And I'd just like more information on that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. I think it would be best for staff to come back with this. I think so if the applicant would like to have this increased sign, they do need to work with the city on this, and also know that until the live streaming is resolved, I think, the original motion still carries, but, that was not approved. There was a condition on that. The Downtown Flats Design Review 2021-018, the Apollo Apartments renovation. This is at 1250 Riverbed, Kyle Dreyfus Wells. Is this for final approval or for conceptual approval?
This is for schematic approval. Kevin Dreyfus Wells.
Kevin Dreyfus Wells. Kevin, I need to swear you in. Anyone else speaking with you?
We have Michael Apt, the project developer, and Ron Tannenbaum is also here from our office.
Do you all swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so you shall answer to penalty of perjury?
Dreyfus Wells, I do.
Ron Tannenbaum, I do.
Okay. In the interest of time, if you could move pretty quickly, and this is schematic approval, just so we can get a sense and give you some direction, that would be helpful, please.
Certainly will, certainly will.
Excuse me, pardon me, this is Terry Fields of Berardi. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not quite sure what happened there. You guys kind of rushed through that, you tabled something. Like I said, I don't mean to be rude, but can you indicate to me what you determined?
Can you please work with staff? They'll work with you on that after the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are 1250 Riverbed. This is the one existing building with a 4-story and a 6-story portion built around 1919 next to the Superior Viaduct. Next slide. This is formerly known as the Left Bank building. The building is currently vacant, had a nightclub on the ground floor and some unpermitted residential uses above. Next slide. Next slide. We are proposing 70 residential units. We are seeking schematic approval only for the building itself. There are some views here that show some potential site improvements under the viaduct, some on-street parking, but that's still being worked out and negotiated. So we want to focus on the building today. Next slide. So this is intended to be really almost entirely small scale, 1-bedroom efficiency type residential units. New entry proposed there on the right side at the north end of the building and a lobby. And then next slide, upper floors residential entirely. Next slide. On the roof of the 4th floor, a roof deck that would be down below the level of the viaduct with a stair connection to that. And then next slide, finally on the upper floor, the leasing office, which has a small connection to the viaduct. That connection exists, but would need to be removed and replaced essentially in kind because of the level of deterioration of that. Next slide. So proposing essentially restoration of the exterior. We're trying to maintain the look of those existing windows. Next slide. Primary design elements that we're adding is new windows on the ground floor and a new entry canopy and blade sign, and reopening some old openings to provide the entrance to the lobby there on the right. Next slide. Next slide. So new openings are being added to the viaduct side of the building. That's going to require some code issues to be worked out, but we've met with the building department and have their comments, and we believe a path to move forward on that. You can see leasing office on the upper floor, and then finally, next slide, another view of the proposed blade sign. We do recognize that the blade sign is larger than the sign ordinance and the zoning code would allow, but next slide, do think that that's necessary. This is at the end of a kind of a long dead end street, and can sort of, one more image, we have a photo montage that shows what that blade sign would look like in front of the Jackknife Bridge. We think that's helpful for wayfinding for the project. So happy to go back and answer detail as the speed presentation, but appreciate your time.
Thank you. Commission members?
Move approval, Downing.
Second, Fluker.
We have a motion and a second. This is schematic approval. We'll see if there are any other comments or discussion. I'd just like to say it's a wonderful project, a beautiful building, and I think my perspective, since we're giving schematic approval, is that the blade sign is actually quite wonderful. So,
Madam Chair, we have Director Collier and Anthony Santoro with their hand raised.
Sure.
Yeah, 2 things real quick about this project. And given the fact that we've just recently adopted the Vision for the Valley initiative, it's investments like this that are really opportunistic with respect to rehabbing what's there. Also, the way this is situated is a real positive, because you still have the open space along the river's edge, which is great. It would be ideal if this river's edge could be enhanced somehow as connected to this development. So that's something that's obviously needs to be discussed and could be implemented in the near future. Not to mention the viaduct itself, which I think is going to be a critical piece of the puzzle with respect to the connectivity to Nautica and other areas of this peninsula. One of the key things that we talked about with Vision for the Valley is really trying to connect the dots down here, because once you're down in the flats, it always seems like there's these rooms or these pieces and parts of things. And I think to the degree that we can fill in like this, adaptively reuse, but also make those connections explicit, I think that you'll start to feel a more connected, cohesive environment in the River Valley. So thanks for this investment, because I think it's critical.
Okay. Any other comments, or we should probably move? We have 7 minutes, so let's keep going.
Move to approve as presented.
There was a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got lost. You guys are losing me. Hurry up.
We have a motion and a second already. Can we call the roll, please?
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
This is another downtown flats design review, demolition of a one-story building, 2021-019. This is at 1431 Chester Avenue, Tom Einhouse from Playhouse Square. Tom, are you still on?
I'm still on. I have with me Lexi Bauman of B&B Wrecking.
Okay. Do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Moving quickly through it, with all due respect to historic character, this building, I checked with the Landmarks Commission. They don't have jurisdiction in this area, but they confirmed that it is not a contributing piece of property. The history is kind of bleak, and the condition currently is very bleak. It sits directly next to the Greyhound station, kind of nestled in between a parking lot, a surface parking lot. There is the building. One-story brick building. The side is painted and brick. The front facade is nondescript. If you could continue, please. Next slide. There's the front. Next slide. And there's the side. The curb that can be seen, if you could go back, there's a small curb at the bottom of the building that would be retained, as well as at the back of the building. And you'll see on a site plan that there is a fence that is part of the Greyhound site. This is the west side of the building. That would be totally removed, and the fence that's in place there would be totally removed.
And it will just be seeded and graded?
So looking at the site plan real quick, we'll go back 20 feet with grass. We'll have compacted gravel back to the footprint of the building, and then the site behind the building will be uncompacted gravel. The large tree that is there will remain. The Greyhound fence will remain, and we will install the curb, parking curbs to prevent parking on the space. So there's some green space, gravel, large tree, compacted gravel. And we think it'll soften it for the neighborhood, but it'll also not become a hangout, which many of the areas along Chester have become.
Okay, questions, commission members?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, Charles, and a second, August. Any other comments? Okay, call roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, I must recuse myself from this project.
Okay, thank you, August. This is, I don't see I know the project. It's the 925 Euclid Avenue Centennial redevelopment. This is seeking final approval. Going to ask if Diane is still here.
I am, Madam Chair.
I'm going to ask if you can take over as the chair. I'm going to stay as long as possible to try to vote because I do need to leave. But if you don't mind, if you could take over and share this last item.
That's fine. Who's here to present?
Karen Borland and Karen
Yep.
Borland from Sandvik Architects.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Maybe I'll swear them in real quick. Do you swear?
Sorry, this is Chris Ogle too with Millennium. I may need to say something, but you can swear me in.
Sure. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
I do.
Okay. It's yours, Diane.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So thank you all for your time this morning. Again, this is the Centennial Project. This is the rehabilitation of the historic Union Trust Company, Union Commerce Bank, Huntington Bank Building. It sits at the northeast corner of East 9th and Euclid Avenue. This is a 1.4 million square foot building complex that includes 2 large bank halls ringed by offices, plus large towers of office space. This is a site plan here. You see the main block of the building. Euclid would be to the bottom of the page, East 9th along the left side, Chester at the top. You see the alley, East 11th Place, which separates the main block of the building from the annex building, which is a 5-story portion of the building, part of the original construction, but separated by that alley. Next slide. These are just some context photos. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this building. You see on the left here the Euclid frontage, and then continuing up East 9th, it's the shortest frontage is actually on Euclid. And then on the right, you see the longest frontage, which is along Chester Avenue. And then at the left side of that image, you see the annex, the 5-story portion at the east end. Next slide. They're just some more pedestrian level views of the building. You see the ground, the base level colonnades, which continue around the street facing elevations, although toned down a bit on the Chester side. Next slide. On the left, you see the Chester elevation, including the annex in the foreground. On the right is one of the typical light wells. There are 2 large light wells, one above each bank hall that extend. The windows begin at the 6th floor up to the 20th floor. These are secondary elevations, just common brick elevations on the back side of the building. There's very limited site area associated with the property behind the annex, but otherwise it's abutted by neighboring properties on all sides. Next slide. Historically, this was the Union Trust Company Bank originally. So planning for this started in 1921, 100 years ago, and this is where the name the Centennial came from. So it was completed in 1924. It's a Graham Anderson Probst and White design, really a remarkable landmark in the city. The interior bank halls are particularly significant historically and architecturally. But the exterior of the building is also very stately and has really experienced relatively few alterations since its original construction. Next slide. So you see here a rendering of the completed proposed project, and you'll note that it looks very much like it does today. The lion's share of work that's being proposed here on the exterior is going to be repair and in-kind replacement of existing historic materials. This is a historic tax credit project, so we will also be subject to reviews by the State Historic Preservation Office and the National Park Service. It was constructed in 1924, as I mentioned, just over 1.4 million square feet, so quite a massive building. The proposed project is roughly 450 million in development cost, and the main block of the building, so from floors 4 all the way up to the 20th floor, will be converted to residential use. It will house 868 workforce affordable housing units. So 100% of these units are income restricted to an average of 60% AMI. So really showing a a very significant need in downtown Cleveland for affordable housing. There is also in the banks, ringing the bank hall levels on the first through third floors, there are offices that were historically offices that overlook the bank halls. Those will remain in office use. There's also some office space in the annex building. The bank halls themselves, which are quite stunning, will be rehabilitated and converted, with the smaller bank hall, which runs along East 9th Street, will be converted to a restaurant. And then the larger bank hall following the Chester side will be converted to a museum and event space called the Cleveland Exposition that's being planned in coordination with the Western Reserve Historical Society. So really fantastic public uses for these very significant spaces. And I know we're all excited to reopen this building to the public and have people be able to experience the real majesty of this building again. There is no parking associated with the building. There is a garage across the street that's connected by a tunnel, but it's not owned by the current property owner. So there is parking available there, but no dedicated parking. Just running quickly through the floor plans. The lower levels are largely going to remain in their historic use. This is the ground floor, which is partially below grade. There's a retail arcade in that level, which will remain in retail space. Some space along the west end is being reused for building management offices, residential mailroom, leasing. And then there's some back house service space as well on this floor. Next slide. The first floor is the main bank hall level. So you see at the top left, the entrances off of East 9th and Chester, which lead into the rotunda that feed into the two bank halls. There's a separate entrance off of Euclid that leads to a large corridor where all the main elevator banks are, serving the upper floor. So that is where the main residential entry will be. All the residential elevators are in that main bank. That will also serve the 21st floor, which I forgot to mention previously, but that's the former Midday Club, which will remain in use as an event space. The next two slides will show the second and third floors, which again are just really continuing their existing use, office use, ringing around the bank halls and open into the central atrium. When we get up to the fourth floor is when the residential housing begins. On floors 4 and 5, the light wells, that's below the light wells, so there's no windows on the interior side, so those will just have apartments around the street facing elevations with residential storage in the center areas. The fifth floor has the main residential amenity spaces, which are large and significant to support this number of housing units. Next slide, as we kind of go up the building
Peter,
again.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
sure. Just because I don't want you to lose your quorum and your final approval, because I'm the link to your final approval. Can you focus primarily on the exterior, any signage or anything, since this is final approval? Otherwise,
you can go to the next. Yeah. So yeah, to summarize the exterior, and if you could go to the next slide and one more. Really, all that we're seeking approval for, final approval for today, is repair, restoration of the existing historic building. Everything I think would qualify as repair or in-kind replacement, again, all matching the existing appearance. We will be replacing some storefronts. There's significant masonry work. We're replacing all windows which were previously replaced, but really all just in-kind replacement. The only significant new work, which would include signage and lighting, and also a proposed new freestanding canopy at the East 9th entrance, are all included in this presentation, but just for information and no action being requested. So there are, I think about 30 more slides here showing details of the existing conditions and what our proposed repairs are. I don't know if that's, do we need to go through all of that, or maybe just quickly?
Commission members?
I mean, my sense is that you should get the approval for the cleaning and the restoration, and you're coming back anyway with any of the the elements that are not here today for approval, correct? We're not doing conceptual approval on those today, are we?
Correct.
Yeah.
And these improvements are, since it's a historic project, there's a little bit of regulation to what they are, right? So it's kind of a pass fail, right?
Correct, yes. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to tell you more about it, but it's a great project, and we're excited to really, I think it's going to be a major improvement. There are some significant issues here, but yes, the building's going to look very much like it does today.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion? Because I can't.
I'll move approval.
I second.
Okay, Michael has left, so I don't know who is calling the roll.
I will call the roll. Downey?
Yes.
Curry?
Yes.
McCray Scott?
Yes.
Paul? Oh, I'm sorry, Slife.
Yes.
All right, and Bowen is gone.
By the way, it's an amazing project, so can't wait for Cleveland. And I hope that you will come back when there's a little more time on the agenda and we can see some of the additions to the canopies and signage when we approve them. I hope there's time on the agenda because as I can see, they're extraordinary. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're done.
No,
Yes.
we have 3 public art projects that haven't been heard.
Okay. Can we go back to them? I think we still have a quorum, right? Freddie, with 4 of us here?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Can we switch back to that?
Yep, we're trying to do that now.
Great, thank you.
I'll go ahead and introduce the first project while we're going back. This first project, the equality. I'm sorry. The first project, the Equality Mural at Kamal's Tires, is actually a retroactive approval that we're requesting. This mural was installed last year in response to the George Floyd protest. And it was brought to our attention by the member of the Northwest Design Review. They did see it on July 14th, and it was approved with one condition, and that condition was that the storefront frame be painted back into the mural so they could better define the storefront. I do support this project. I think it's a wonderful project. I'm on the fence about the condition that was provided by the Northwest Design Review. When I first saw it on a smaller screen, it didn't seem like repainting the storefront disrupted the art very much. But then looking at it when I got back to my office on a larger screen, I feel like it does disrupt some of the important artistic elements. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Susan Underwood from Metro West Development Corporation to go through the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I'll just kind of run through this real quick. So this was a mural done by Rafael Valdivieso on Kamal's Tires. You can see the blank storefront that's been boarded up for some time, and they had no desire to do a window storefront, though they have been pushed to do that because of crime in the area. And they have an entrance on the side of the building. So they do not use the front of the building and wanted instead to creative work of art that spread a message of equality to the neighborhood, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. And Giselle, the owner of Kamal, and her husband the owners of the tire shop. They are all from Lebanon, and so they were just inspired, they're kind of in that area that's called International Village, and wanted to reach out and send that message. So just some images you can pop through of Building Hope in the City funded this project. So they do this Rally CLE program, which $2,000 grants that fund anything in the neighborhood that can be beneficial to the community, and then can include the community on these Rally CLE days, which this year it's September 11th, so it's always around that date every year. And they have, a block party and community cleanups, murals, all that kind of thing. So this was just one Rally CLE project that Building Hope in the City funded. And then Kamal's Tires was the owner, and Rafael Valdivieso is the artist. So as you can see, this is the finished project. And as Tara said, the design review, Near West Design Review Committee, their recommendation was to paint all of the kind of the borders of the windows, which I don't know if is that in this presentation, that proposed change?
It should be at the very end, Susan, after
I thought Matt added it into it.
Yeah,
There's
there
the
it is.
proposed change. So after the Near West Design Review, I took this back to Giselle, the owner's daughter, Raphael, the artist, and Anthony Giambroni from Building Hope in the City. They were the three people on the project, and they all felt that it was overly disruptive of the artwork, and their proposal, they would like to only paint the outside border, if that is possible. So that is the request of the building owner, the artist, and Building Hope in the City, the funder, is to they felt like this proposal is just, especially with the sunshine and with some of the text, they felt like it was more important to preserve the message and the artwork than to make it look like a storefront, which I personally agree with. I understand the why this proposal was come to this compromise, but that is what we're requesting then, is to paint the border of the mural. And the owner also did say that she is planning, they're doing some other renovations to the building. They're doing some power washing and doing some things to the windows up top to kind of frame those out soon. So just kind of keeping that in mind, and that they are a 30-year-old business that has been, a stable business in the community, and won't be going anywhere anytime soon.
Great, thank you. Commission members? Questions?
I personally believe it's fine as painted. I don't think we should have discourse about art and what it looks like, in my opinion. So I would rather move to approve as it was painted and not at the border.
Great.
I second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Call the roll, please. Who's going to call the roll? Ready?
Hold on. Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry.
She's gone.
She's going. McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion approved.
Approved.
So if I understand correctly, they don't have to do the border. They can leave it as is.
That's correct.
Good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you all, and thank you for your help, Tara. And I'll
You're
make
welcome,
sure that
Susie.
future murals get approved ahead of time.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we have another one. Special presentation, Northeast 2021-022 Wordsmith mural at 5 Points Community Center. Seeking final approval, project address 813 East 152nd Street. Presenters Rachel Pollock, Graffiti Heart, Allison Henney, and it moved too fast, so I didn't get the third name. No. Just
I
to be,
believe it's
Graffiti
just
Heart.
Rachel presenting on behalf of Graffiti Heart today. So this is another one of many that you've seen by the artist Wordsmith, who does typography and has his vintage typewriter iconic symbol in his murals. This was approved at Northeast Design Review on July 6th. There are several of these around the city. This one happens to be in Ward 8 in the Collinwood neighborhood. And before I turn it over to Rachel to do the presentation, I was contacted by Councilman Polenzek, whose ward this is in, and he did ask that I read this into the record. He said, I support the mural project. The depiction is historic and timely. The Gatewoods are trying to re-energize the northern end of East 185th Street. We need uplifting murals and ones that promote positive images and developments in our society. Therefore, I support their efforts and the mural. So that was his, I'm sorry, that's not even for this mural. I apologize. That's for the next presentation. My bad. I support this mural, though. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
okay, thank you. Rachel?
Hi, guys. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You can.
And I apologize in advance for my dog panting on the side. We had to rearrange our vet appointment this morning. But like we said, you guys have seen a few of these pieces so far. I went over to the first installation this morning, and it's going up beautifully. We're really, really excited about this project. This Aspire to Inspire on the left-hand side is actually the mock-up of what's going to go in at the Greater Collinwood Community Center there at the 5 Point Community Center. If you can go to the next slide. I think we're just seeking final approval for this. We do have community support, and we also have developed like an event for this particular installation where we're providing free lunch for the community and for the community members to come out and be engaged and see what we're doing there for them. So keep scrolling through the presentation. It's like we said, you guys have seen quite a bit. This is just the mock-up of where it's going in. And yep, that's the mock-up of what it will look like. 25 foot, and that'll be going in, I think August 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that's it. We also have somebody on with Greater Collinwood, Jamie Baker, who has a couple words that she wants to jump on here as well.
Go ahead.
Thanks for hearing from us today. I'm Jamie Baker, Assistant Director of Greater Collinwood, and we are thrilled about this project and very excited. Councilman Hairston, whose ward this is in, is not with us, but he's in full support as well.
Great. Commission members?
I move to approve.
Great. Second? Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Freddie, can you call the roll?
Downey,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Fine. Another special presentation. Persist mural at Gateway Home /Share, seeking final approval. Project address 532 East 185th Street. Project representatives Marlene Gatewood Allen, the property owner, and Linda Zoltan Wood, the artist. Tara, are you going to begin?
Yes, this is the one that I just embarrassingly read the councilman's support of on the last mural. This mural is on the north end of Collinwood, and the Gatewoods have worked with this artist and the community collaboratively to come up with something very special and meaningful for the neighborhood, and adding some vibrancy to a section of 185th that doesn't have a lot of activity or anything to draw you in. So I don't know if you all want me to reread the councilman's support, but Mike Polenzek did read it. It's on the record, just on the wrong item, but if I need to reread it, I can.
I don't think you need to.
Okay, then I'll.
Go ahead.
I'll turn it over to Marlene Gatewood. She's the owner of the building. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. We, at the Gatewood Home Share, we recently purchased the building, and what we want to do is work with Linda Zoltan, our neighborhood artist, to put a persist mural on our south wall. As you can see, we're surrounded by asphalt, no color, and we wanted to brighten the space up and also send a positive message to everyone that actually sees it. The two pictures here will show, this is from Rose Cliff on the right, where you can see the south wall. There's a vacant business there behind that. And then the picture on the left is from the sidewalk on East 185th, where you would be able to see the mural walking from that way. Most of the parcels around us are vacant, and we just want to brighten up the neighborhood. And I'll turn it over to Linda Zoltan, our artist.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Linda Zoltan-Wood, and I received a grant from Citizens Bank for Community Champion Award for to pay for this mural, and we selected this site because the Gatewoods are so thoroughly involved in reaching out to the community. So we selected, Ms. Gatewood selected Ruby Bridges and Kamala Harris as inspiration for the direction that we hope to see the neighborhood take. And we've included school children from grades 3 through 8 to help design the triangular textured color blocks. So we will have a tone on tone, very subtle within those triangular shapes. Their hopes for the future for their neighborhood, especially behind Kamala Harris. There will be more subtle, if you advance the slides, there will be persist, and it will be a more subtle typeface with a color that will match their clothing. So not a shocking white as this photo represents, and it will be a little smaller. The message would be uplifting for the neighborhood. And as we have found, I've done a mural for Gargano's Pizza on West 25th. As the children help paint and design the mural, they take ownership and they will help protect the property if they are felt listened to and seen.
Great. And Tara put a comment in the chat that this mural was approved by Northeast Design Review on August 3rd.
Just a note that it will be painted to the edges, and then on the left-hand side will be a gray that will match the rest of the building when it's painted in the following year.
Great. Questions from the commission? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
A second?
A second.
Great. Freddie, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have a director's report today?
Yes, very briefly, two items that I want to highlight. One, just thanking all of the commission members for the very successful 2 hybrid meetings that we conducted. They were a production to put on, but they worked beautifully. So just want to thank everyone for their commitment to that. With respect to form-based zoning, I wanted to give everyone an update that we have a draft product. So we are going to be having an internal presentation with our consultants. We're going to have a invitation to the chair and vice chair of the commission prior to a planning presentation for the commission to just review the draft. So this will just be just reviewing the product and getting an understanding of what the product states in the 3 geographies that we're focused on. Obviously, this is a long time coming. Working through COVID obviously was a challenge, so we had to extend contracts and things of that nature. But we're at a point where we have a draft of that product for review. So that's some really good news. And then that meeting is going to be held on the 16th, where we're going to be inviting the chair and co-chair, and then doing a follow-up with other commission members due to the fact that we have certain requirements that we have to adhere to. And the other thing that's coming up is we're going to have a in-person meeting out in the community for the Midtown Master Plan update. So it'll be another hybrid meeting. And one of the reasons why we want to continue to do these things is because we want to show the community how government works, and being out there, inviting community members to these planning presentations that they've participated in, and them understanding how those plans are used and how we adopt and we make decisions based on those community initiatives is important. So that's all I have for today. And I'll turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment to Freddie and all of the planning staff on that hybrid meeting. It ran, I was apprehensive and had reservations, but it ran wonderfully smooth and it was productive. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or concerns? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
All right. I don't know that do we call the roll on that, Freddie?
Let's just be thorough.
Yeah. Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
And Slife.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
You know, Fred, I got to say, I think you got to be careful of August. He's challenging you for best dress today.
Yeah,
I noticed. Fancy jacket he's got on there.
Yeah.
All
All right, guys.
Great.
All right.
Have a good weekend,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.